Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. We will look ahead to Game Week 6 and review the absolute amazing game week that we have in front of us for Match Day 5. There is a match happening right now between Fulham and Brentford, and we've got plenty of matches tomorrow, and hopefully, a bit like last season, after an absolute terrible Saturday, I'm hoping for a super Sunday with plenty of points from Ollie Watkins, Konsa, and Antoine Semenyo. So as you can see, I'm in a dire situation, and I would be on a green arrow if a certain somebody didn't get a red card in the match that just went by between Chelsea and Manchester United. But Robert Sanchez, thank you so much for the 7-point swing, even though Dubravka only got 4 points. But I still lost out on 7 bloody points. And yes, for those that aren't aware, if you have a player who's sent off, so a defender or goalkeeper, they will lose a point for every 2 goals conceded, even when they aren't on the pitch. So that's the way it goes. It's FPL heritage, it's in the rules, there's nothing to complain about there, but Robert Sanchez is an absolute fool. I keep on saying this, I know I picked him in FPL, so yeah, maybe I'm the fool, to be quite honest with you. But I think that's what kind of holds Chelsea back. That defensive line and Robert Sanchez just simply isn't good enough to contend for a Premier League. And that's been a horrible week for Chelsea, dropping points against Brentford, losing to Bayern Munich, and another loss against the worst Man United team probably in Premier League history. Let's get straight into your questions and comments as always, and if possible, I'll try to watch the game because I am actually struggling a little bit with my technology, but I'll do my best and I can then offer my thoughts on the Fulham Brentford game, which I was expecting to be quite a cracker. I went for a 3-2 Fulham win. We'll see how that ages by the end of the next couple of hours. Like this stream, subscribe. This is a nice way of saying thank you for reaching 36,000 subscribers earlier in the deadline stream. And a lot of that, of course, is to do with the UCL fantasy content and all the sort of buzz around the Champions League. That will return on the channel in a couple of weeks' time, heading into match day 2. So hopefully this is a bit chill. I can do a bit of a therapy session and we can have a laugh and also find ways to improve. Is it now time to wildcard going into Game Week 6? That's something I'll discuss in detail. And for certain people, it makes a lot of sense. But I've been talking to people in the Discord server. The link is in the description. I think for some others, maybe it's worth waiting a little bit until Game Week 8 potentially, which is what I'm looking at this moment in time. Kevy says, my captain made it to 20 minutes. Yeah, for Cole Palmer to be subbed off so early, I mean, yeah, no one expected it. Robert Sanchez is the main one to blame, and it was a tactical switch to go a little bit more defensive. It still didn't work out, of course, but United always had that massive advantage. They capitalised, fair play to them. Bruno Fernandes with the goal, and Cole Palmer is still someone on my watch list, and if possible I'll try to bring him and Erling Haaland in, but it would be for a -8 hit, and also selling Gabriel in the process to Marcus Senesi for a -8, so that's something I could do by the end of tonight. I'm still not convinced about that sort of thing, but getting rid of Watkins and Salah for Haaland and Palmer doesn't look too shabby for a -4. It's just the other move I need to make to fund that sort of transfer. SS says, lol Chelsea. We do have quite a few Chelsea fans in the house, and like I said earlier in the deadline stream, they played quite well against Bayern Munich, but yeah, today will be a massive disappointment. Second Air says, I have Captain Van Dijk because didn't smell Gakpo. Pretty good move, I guess. But oh, I'm guessing sell, not smell Gakpo. That'd be quite weird, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, Van Dijk, 4 points isn't too shabby. I mean, not much different to Mohamed Salah in the grand scheme of things. And even Mateta with a solid 7-pointer. I think people would take that in a game like this, which seems so low scoring at this point. But surely someone in the live chat is going to be like, I've got 60 points. Is that good? Yes, the answer to that question is it's bloody well good. Kevy says, I have 2 free transfers, thinking of getting Haaland in. Also, the wildcard is tempting. If I were to wildcard, do I keep my 2 free transfers? Yes. It won't reset to 1. You will keep what you have and you won't gain another one. So it's a good question. It's commonly asked every single season and I understand it. But the answer to your question is you keep the 2 free transfers. Welcome, Martin Phillips. Good to see you. And you're probably hoping I wasn't back so soon to offer therapy consultations, as you can see in the description. Roku says 27.6 left. I think that's not too shabby, actually. It doesn't look great on paper. I would have been on a similar score if I didn't have a certain clown in goal, but maybe I'm the fool for starting Robert Sanchez over Martin Dubravka this week. Newcastle says, Kevy, yes, you'd keep the 2 free transfers. I've been thinking the same too. Either get Haaland in and triple captain or just wildcard and carry my free transfer. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Thank you, Awale. I appreciate it. And yes, you are right. So it looks like Palmer did pick up a problem. I will cover any sort of quotes. I haven't seen anything from Maresca, to be quite honest with you, but yeah, that is definitely something to look at. And Cole Palmer has had a bit of a stop-start season so far, of course, but he would be a big priority. He scored 4 goals against Brighton last season in Game Week 6 at Stamford Bridge. It could be a repeat if he were in that lineup. But let me see if I've got an exact quote on that Maresca problem. Yeah, I think it's the same groin injury, and he did feel it at the end of the Bayern Munich game, so I wouldn't be too optimistic, actually. Yeah, I think that'd be another reason for some people to wildcard, for example. So, yeah, it's just an absolute mess of a game week. Of course, you can see Florian Wirtz on the thumbnail. He has been a disaster so far this season, and he's close, I'm just saying, to 007 for his club. As for Sesko, he's already hit it. Congratulations to Benjamin Sesko for club and country. That's 7 games, 0 goals and 0 assists. But of course, they're young players. They've got potential. We all know they'll come good. But maybe, in the case of Sesko anyway, not at his current club. I'm sure a United fan is going to cry about that. It's just a joke. Thank you, Anish. Considering how Burnley is playing, Haaland in? Well, to be fair, Burnley have been solid in the last 2 games. But I did say this before Game Week 5. I just think stylistically, Man City, especially at home, will still create multiple chances against that Burnley team. And Dubravka could rack up some saves and still give you 2 or 3 points. I'll probably have to start him next week unless I take a hit for a goalkeeper, and I don't recommend that. So, yeah, I think Haaland, with his record against Burnley, which is far better than what Salah's was against the Clarets, I'd still be very, very enticed by that sort of option. My current plan is to bring Haaland in for a hit and triple captain him. But with this Cole Palmer news, I might just get Bruno Fernandes for a -4 and sell Mohamed Salah, which I talked about in my team selection video. 15 points from 9. Legit can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, you're not the only one, mate. We're going to try it in this stream to make sense of the absolute chaos from today. Xavi Simons, Gakpo, Joao Pedro, Esteval, Cucurella, Virgil, Lacroix, Munoz and Vicario. Yeah, Vicario was very shaky today, to say the least. He should have saved that Ayari goal, which was a good strike, but yeah, Vicario. I was asked earlier about the top 4 goalkeepers in the Premier League, and I saw Vicario's name in there, and I immediately said no. I know Emi Martinez might not be highly rated by some, but he's still much better, in my opinion, than Vicario, especially for his country. Yeah, Vicario has those moments. He can be a great shot stopper, but very, very shaky from set pieces. And yeah, with your other players, Xavi Simons looked bright when he came on. But I said this in my predicted lineups yesterday. I had an inkling that he could be benched. I thought it would be for Brennan Johnson, not Odegaard, to be fair. And for the other players like Joao Pedro and Esteval, severely hampered by the red card. It was then levelled, of course, of Casemiro being stupid, but yeah, I think you were hard done by. Lacroix hit the crossbar. I think his XG last year was over 3. He was such an underperformer because he's such a threat and physical presence, yet he just doesn't really score enough headed goals for what I think he can actually do in terms of his jumping, and yeah, he definitely needs to do more when it comes to goal scoring. That was a big disappointment today. At least Van Dijk gave you 4 points. That's not too shabby, but the rest, big disappointments. Thank you, Wally. I appreciate that, of course, in Asia. Yeah, it's very late on for a lot of you, so enjoy your weekend and get some rest. Good evening, Pieter. Hopefully you're doing better than I am in FPL. Roku says need Gyökeres Hall because I sold Ekitike to get him. Yes, I honestly don't mind. I don't have him, but a Gyökeres Hall would probably mean an Arsenal win. And if it means Gabriel Hall's on my bench, so be it at this point, but I'm not too optimistic now. Even by starting Dubravka over Sanchez, I would be in a green arrow, and then maybe I could protect that with Watkins, Konsa, and Semenyo, but really at this point, I'm just praying. Salah and Watkins out for Haaland and Bruno next week, or which midfielders? I've said this many times, apart from Semenyo, there aren't many standouts in the midfield, especially to replace Salah, who has been underwhelming so far this season, but he's only blanked once in the Premier League. For 14.5 million though, he's simply not worth the money right now. And I think Erling Haaland is the go-to. I'll probably triple captain him in Game Week 6. And I think Bruno Fernandes is probably the one to replace Salah to fund Watkins to Haaland. That's what I'm looking to do right now. Yeah, Ekitike was on 11 DEFCON. Someone on Twitter pointed that out, and that's very frustrating. It might have been you, actually, Roku, if I'm not mistaken, but someone certainly did. Yeah, it's always frustrating when you're missing out on those 2 points and stuff like that, or maybe with the bonus points. How did Sanchez get an extra -1? I said this a few minutes ago, mate. That's all covered. It's in the rules. If a player that you have is sent off, it doesn't matter. For every 2 goals his team concedes, even when he's not on the pitch, you get a -1 point for that player. It's always been the case for UCL Fantasy and FPL, so it's nothing like dubious. It's in the rules, and I understand it. Savi says, I'm taking Wood and Milenkovic out. Can't handle owning them anymore. I get you. I mean, I said the same with Ollie Watkins, of course, going into this game week. It's Sunderland next at home, but will Chris Wood even start the game? It's not a guarantee. And Igor Jesus did more in 50 minutes than Chris Wood did in 75, so that would be a massive concern. Sell Gakpo, Watkins, Cucurella to Salah, Richarlison, Watkins for free. I know Richarlison scored today. It was a scrappy goal. Verbruggen could have done a little bit better, and I think ultimately the Brighton defence is to blame, but I wouldn't be going for Richarlison. The fixtures are good, but you've got Colomwani and different options in that Spurs attack. I don't think Richarlison starts week in, week out. Kudus is the most nailed on in terms of minutes. He'll give you creativity as well. Not score enough goals, but at 6.6 million, he's still decent. And Xavi Simons is the most exciting. If he plays in that number 10 position, he could do serious damage in that Tottenham team and probably have the highest ceiling of any other attackers in the long term. I get your transfers in. They're good overall. It's a bit of an awkward time to buy Salah, though. If you don't have Haaland, mate, I would seriously prioritise that first. I'm guessing you've got him already. But, yeah, overall good transfers in. Who are you selling Watkins to? Is that Gyökeres? Because you do say Watkins twice. But I'm not sure about Richarlison. How many games is Sanchez suspended for? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is suspended for 1 game. But I'll double check that because, yeah, maybe I'm just being an idiot at this point. But if it's for foul play, that will be like a 3-game ban. This was a professional last man foul. So it's a 1-game ban. If I am incorrect about that, correct me in the live chat. Thank you very much. Ibrahima says, have 2 free transfers. Looking to sell Salah for Haaland. Yeah, a lot of us will be doing that. What is the best replacement for Salah? Around 7.5. Probably Caicedo or Xavi Simons are 2 of them. They're not the outright best. If you don't have Semenyo, he would have been the absolute standout, but he does cost 7.6. He's gone up in price so many times this season, so that's a massive shame for you. Yeah, Semenyo, that would have been perfect. Semenyo and Haaland, that is literally it. But apart from that, you're kind of struggling with the midfielder options. So probably Caicedo. Maybe you take a punt on a Spurs midfielder like Xavi Simons, but his minutes won't be completely secure. Yeah, Weising says, Williams benched, Palmer captain, and you're a Chelsea fan. So yeah, not a great day for you, but there is Sunday, and that is the hope that we end Game Week 5 in the best possible way. Look, Gakpo has been concerning in recent matches, so in the Champions League, subbed off early. I was also expecting him to be subbed off before 60 today. It was just afterwards, so a bit fortunate there. But yeah, with Cody Gakpo, I think he's less of a concern than Florian Wirtz, for example. So Wirtz would be a clear sell. With Gakpo, there is still a case for holding on to him, but Semenyo is the outright best midfielder in FPL right now. Bruno a keep on wildcard if Palmer's injured? Yes, and this is not hindsight. Oh, Bruno scored today? Yes, he's amazing. Because in my wildcard video, he's on the thumbnail, he features in my main team, and I talked about Bruno Fernandes being a nice sort of, not facilitator for Erling Haaland, but for example, in my case, Salah to Bruno Fernandes gives me enough money to do Watkins to Haaland. So I think Bruno Fernandes will be one of the more consistent options this season in the midfield, and he definitely warrants the 9 million in the long term, even though he can be frustrating from time to time. Sanchez 1-game suspension served against Lincoln, so should be back for Brighton. Oh, yeah. Wait. So it's 2 games for Sanchez. It's a cup game as well. Okay, so I think he has a 1-game ban. Yes, not 2 matches. I think if it's like foul play, that could be a 3-match ban, but obviously it isn't the case here. So yeah, I need to double check this, so apologies of not knowing this, I really should. But that would be great if Sanchez is available next week. But what if he's benched for a punishment because of that stupid, absolutely stupid red card? Kudus, my captain, robbed of bonus. Look, enjoy the points and run with it, mate. He got 2 assists, got booked. Ultimately, the fact he got booked, you're always going to be a bit handicapped with the bonus points. It's always like that with FPL, so yeah, take that. 7 points is a good return this week for your captain. I bench boosted Dubravka, Senesi, Paqueta, and Borro. Look, Dubravka did well for you. Fair play on that one, but yeah, with Senesi, you're kind of hoping he can carry that defensive line and bench in general. Paqueta created a good chance today with a good cross. But yeah, apart from that, very disappointing. Pedro Borro, he has been very poor. It has to be said, Pedro Porro hasn't been good enough in FPL this season. Only one return. Well, to be fair, that's not really true. That's recency bias. In the first 3 game weeks, he kept clean sheets and also got 4 points in game week 3. After that, he has been downhill. We'll give him a bit more time, but not good enough. Ultimately, he's not worth the extra million over Van der Ven at this moment in time, or 0.9. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sazad. Maybe you can watch on the replay, but no worries. I'm not going to force you to watch this, obviously. And yeah, maybe you don't need the therapy as much as others. So thank you very much. Have a good night and enjoy your weekend. Yeah, Xavi Simons should start the next game. I'm convinced about that, but I always had a concern about this week because he started against Villarreal and against West Ham. Playing 3 games a week is a different kettle of fish. He just joined Tottenham, and there will be rotation from time to time with Brennan Johnson, and in the case of today, Odeberg can also play on the left, but I think Xavi Simons looks even better in a central position. DM McDonald says, "Evening, Dylan. Have had a stinker so far. Think I'm going to use my free hit." I think I mentioned Game Week 6 as a potential free hit sort of game week. Definitely more so than Game Week 5, so that could definitely work. And yeah, maybe in the coming days I'll make a best free hit team video. If I don't make a specific podcast on it, maybe I'll incorporate it into my wildcard squad. But yeah, definitely an interesting one. I think give it time. So don't activate anything just yet. Let's see how the game week ends tomorrow. And then if you're still feeling that way, it's a real possibility. And if, for example, you don't want a wild card or you're not that keen on triple captaining Haaland, but you want him against Burnley and stuff like that, the free hit could work very well. Yeah, Way's saying not a good score so far. And yeah, I'm just gutted about Robert Sanchez, really. A 7-point swing because of a goalkeeper. That is insane. It really is. Honestly, if I had 29, I'd be relatively happy, all things considered. But that Sanchez red card has ruined things for me. This season's got to be the hardest FPL campaign, I swear. So far, it looks that way, but it is early days, and I think it's also a case of us learning more about the DEFCON system and also the best teams and assets. So therefore, you can determine the best quality fixtures and the most informed players as well. But yeah, it has been quite difficult so far, that's for sure. My rank has been the worst it's ever been, really, at this stage of the season. Kudus versus Xavi Simons. So Kudus will get more minutes, and he's more, I wouldn't say creative, but as a result of those extra minutes, he'll probably get more assists than Xavi Simons this season. But if you look at the goal scoring, I think Simons is more likely between the two. And ultimately, they should both start most games for Spurs this season. And that will form part of Tottenham's best team overall. But the most exciting pick is Xavi Simons. The most exciting isn't always the best option, though. And Kudus is template for a reason. Another 7-point today. Started the campaign well against Burnley, but blanks in every other match. It's a difficult one, but I would lean towards Xavi Simons still. I think he'll start in Game Week 6. As a United fan, I can't wait for Amram to go. His football is so difficult to watch. Yeah, I mean, you won't be one of those fans who are like, oh, we just won, so Amram in. Yeah, I get that. I mean, ultimately, 34 Premier League points in 32 matches is not good enough. I mean, United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. They should be doing much better, even in a transitional phase. Yeah, the win percentage speaks for itself. It has just been dire, absolutely dire. And the football and performances haven't really backed anything out in terms of, you know, giving reasons for him to stay. Have 2 free transfers, looking to sell Salah for Haaland. What is the best replacement for Salah? Around 7.5. So that was covered earlier, mate. Thank you very much. Connor Shopify says, I'm so sad. For some reason, I thought Cunha would start. I played him over Kudus today. Yeah, I had him in my predicted lineups, and that was a mistake of mine. And I was talking about this with someone in the live chat in the deadline stream earlier. So when I was originally building the team, I did have Amad Diallo on the left, and then I saw the Cunha news and the fact he was back. I thought he'd be rushed back into the 11, but I was wrong about that. I'm not going to say this in hindsight. I generally would have recommended Kudus over Cunha, but I didn't see this question in the deadline stream earlier. And some people also pointed out Kudus' record against Brighton, which is very solid. Albeit the returns were a bit fortuitous, you could say, especially the second assist. But honestly, they all count, and Kudus created multiple chances today. There's an issue of transfers. I think I might lose a -4. You need to expand on that. I'm not sure exactly what's going on in this situation, but if you made a transfer after the Game Week 5 deadline today, which was at 11 AM in the UK, then that means the transfer was for Game Week 6 and not for Game Week 5. So that means you're then walking the tightrope, and any additional transfers beyond the quota means a -4 hit. Good night, Baraf. Best mid under 7 million. It's probably still going to be Moises Caicedo for me. You might want to consider Kudus. Not exactly a fun pick or exciting one, but he can be somewhat reliable. Yes, Ruler too. I also hate Robert Sanchez, and he's done fairly well in the home matches, of course, with the returns, but away from home, an absolute disaster, and today capped it all off. So yeah, with Xavi Simons, the thoughts haven't really changed too much. Maybe the big takeaway from today is that he looks even better in a central position, and he should have been booked today for a dive, but overall he made a big impact, almost scored from outside the box as well, and I think he's going to get a few returns over the coming weeks and start all the Premier League games over the next 3 matches at least. But long term there will be concerns. Sometimes he'll be benched like today for Odegaard or Brennan Johnson, and Spurs do change tactically depending on the opposition. They did very well to fight back from 2-0 down, but with Spurs, I've said this before, I think the clean sheets will start to dry out. I know they kept one in Game Week 4, but you know, since I said that sort of statement, they didn't against Bournemouth in Game Week 3. 2 goals conceded today against Brighton. And by the way, I'm not trying to like blow my own horn here, if that's even the saying, but these were my scoreline predictions for today. So Liverpool 2, Everton 0 was incorrect, but almost there. The 2 scorelines I got right were Brighton 2, Tottenham 2, and also West Ham 1, Crystal Palace 2. But yeah, I had a stinker on the Wolves prediction. That's fair enough. I also went for 2-1 Forest. I thought they'd get the win today, and they've been very disappointing under Ange so far. And despite a lot of people backing a Chelsea win, I know the red card played a big part, but I did fancy United to get a result, but not all 3 points, to be fair. I went for a 1-1 draw, Fulham 3, Brentford 2, and then for tomorrow, I've gone for Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 1. I know a lot of people might be leaning towards Bournemouth, and I think they're the most likely out of the 2. I also went for Sunderland 0, Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2, Man City 1. It is 1-0 Brentford, by the way. Damsgaard has scored, and like I said, I've tried to actually get the game up, but it has been a big struggle. I'll try to do that once again. I'm not sure I got the FPL assist. I'll have a look for you now, and I'll also talk about the bonus points very quickly, and we can talk about that as I answer some more questions too. So let's do that now and go through the bonus points. So in the Liverpool 2, Everton 1 game, so Gravenberch gets maximum, that's completely deserved. Ekitike gets 2, and Idrissa Gana Gueye gets 1. Indai wasn't too far off despite being booked. He scored defensive contribution points, and that was a good start actually, or a decent start to the game week. I know Salah captain was a bit underwhelming, but for Indai to get 6 points after being booked, I'm very happy with that. He has been the star of an otherwise dismal game week for me. For Brighton 2, Tottenham 2, the bonus points have been allocated to Richarlison, who gets maximum, Minter gets 2, and Ayari gets 1. He was one player in pre-season who was getting quite a lot of goals in central midfield, and I did highlight him as a potential decent option in FPL this season, but if we're being honest, Vicario should have saved that shot. For Burnley 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Jadon Anthony got maximum bonus points, Nico Williams got 2 after a thunderous strike, and Lyle Foster got 1. So Martin Dubravka might even get a bonus point by the end. I really hope he doesn't. He's got like 4 points on my bench already. That's a 7-point swing against Sanchez. 8 would be even worse. For the Crystal Palace game, maximum bonus points go to Jared Bowen. Adam Wharton gets 2. Both Gay and Mateta share 1 bonus point apiece. And Leeds got a massive result today against Wolves, and I have to say, I've said this from the beginning, I think Wolves are in serious trouble. Vitor Pereira signed a new contract, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me if he was sacked by the end of the year. And I've seen his record in other clubs. He sometimes gets a really good start, but then things go tits up, basically, in the second season. And I know Wolves should have done more in the summer, and there is a lack of quality, but I have to say Wolves are in deep, deep trouble. So with the bonus points here, Stat got 3, courtesy of a goal and an assist. Calvert-Lewin, with a nice lofted header, gets 2. And Okafor gets 1. And that was a nice little finish from the left-hand side from him. In the United 2, Chelsea 1 game, Bruno Fernandes gets 3. Maguire gets 2. And Mazraoui gets 1. Caicedo was very close to getting bonus points. And guess what? He got defensive contributions. This guy is an absolute machine. Yeah, if I was wildcarding, I think Caicedo would be in my team, especially if Cole Palmer is injured. So in terms of Chelsea coverage, I think Caicedo and João Pedro would be enough. A defender isn't too shabby, but they have been a big letdown in the last 2 games, 4 goals conceded in those away matches. And of course, Brentford-Fulham, I'm not going to say he's getting bonus points because it's early days, but Damsgaard has a great opportunity now after scoring the opening goal. I backed the Fulham win, and it's not looking too good at the moment, but there is still time. Don't go anywhere. And let's see if I can finally get the game up. I actually want to watch it, but yeah, it's not looking good. So drop a like on the stream, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's going to be a bit of a chill one, but there are over 200 people watching. It's always massively appreciated. I think a lot of people like these kind of Saturday night reaction streams, and it basically means a double upload today. And yeah, for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of double uploads, sometimes even get a triple here and there with UCL Fantasy as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want any UCL Fantasy content that's still relevant, check out my chip strategy guide and the how to play video. For Fantasy Premier League, I also did a chip strategy podcast, and it's still relevant today. I did show the updated slides in the deadline stream earlier as well. Maybe I'll go through it today, but yeah, if you want to see an updated chip strategy guide and, you know, have that sort of information, that could also be addressed in the future. Thoughts on Kusanov in terms of minutes? Well, Man City have a nice fixture swing now, but I'm not convinced about that sort of FPL pick. He's also had a few knocks over the last couple of weeks. He can play as a centre-back and on the right-hand side, and I believe he'll play there against Arsenal tomorrow, but I think City will rotate quite heavily, even though you would expect them to do that against Huddersfield. Yeah, Kusanov is not really one for me. The same goes for Doku, who I would be more appealed by, but I think with City, it's Erling Haaland, the clear number 1. Maybe Phil Foden as a punt in the midfield. Apart from that, I'm kind of struggling. Defensively, I'm not convinced by other options. Maybe Gvardiol, but I'd rather go for Gabriel or Virgil van Dijk long term. Anish says 45 points. That's really good. Semenyo, Senesi, Raya, and Eze to play. So I'm not sure who's on your bench and stuff like that and the whole context of your team, but 45 points is a great score this week, actually. Yeah, Baraf, Ndai already got the DEFCON, 6 points overall. So I'm very happy with that. The only good thing, in my opinion, from Game Week 5 so far, obviously Robert Sanchez minus 3 points. I lost out on 7 because the Bravka got 4. Lacroix blanked, and he really should have gotten a return today. Pedro Porro blanked and never looked like scoring or assisting. Gakpo subbed off after 60 minutes. Salah early assist, then ghosted for the entire match. Joao Pedro was handicapped by the red card. I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but Chris Wood has been an absolute disaster. I should never have signed him. I was very close to buying Mateta last week, and that would have given me a few points this week, of course. When I made the transfer in Game Week 4, I bought Lacroix for Murillo, and there I gained 3 points and also had enough money to buy Semenyo this week. So, yeah, it's kind of difficult to say in hindsight, but Chris Wood has just not been a good transfer at this moment in time. So basically, if you break down my team, I've had one good performer in Ndai. That's it. Because of an assist and also DEFCON. Yeah, it's not looking too good. But in this midfield, I'd be looking to go for something like Semenyo, Ndai, Caicedo, and Bruno Fernandes. That's the sort of midfield I'm looking at on the wildcard, and it was covered in my wildcard podcast a couple of days ago. One of Reinders or Gabriel, I think, will return tomorrow. I'm hoping it's Gabriel. But yeah, I did have a dream about him getting 8 points or something at least. Yeah, that could, well, hopefully it does come to fruition if it means Arsenal win. So I don't have a Palmer injury update, to be honest with you. I'll have a look, but I don't have an exact quote by Maresca. If I do find it, you will have the information, of course, and there could even be a predicted lineups video going into Game Week 6, and I will keep you updated on my sort of progress. Some of them I got spot on today, others a bit frustrated, but there you go. So I'll have another look at the Cole Palmer injury situation, but I think it's the groin. Once again, just like he felt against Bayern Munich, and it was the same problem that kept him out against West Ham and also in other fixtures. So yeah, that is a huge, huge problem. So yeah, right now I don't think we know anything. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. If there is a quote by Maresca, that would obviously be very handy, but nothing's popping up on my timeline. Let's see, actually, as soon as I say that, Twitter's like, yeah, you're a fool. You're a fool, and you're a waste of time. Good night. So Cole this morning did a test to play this game. He was not 100%. It was a fantastic effort for the club, for his teammates, for the team. Unfortunately, he was not 100%. So that is the quote going around by the BBC. And yeah, the page is a Chelsea page that relays all the information. So I'm going to show you that right now. That is the quote I just read out. So there you go. Hopefully that proves useful to anybody watching. It doesn't really give us any information on his chances for Game Week 6, but it's an update. It's something. Better than nothing, in my opinion. Patrick says, hi Dylan, great week for me. Yes, 50 points and Watkins, Rodgers and Reinders left to play and up to 990k. Now it's wildcard time. So yeah, the Palmer one was covered. He had a bit of a groin injury and you can see the update on screen, but very good week for you. 34 points plus bonus of Anderson playing just now. Yeah, Anderson obviously conceded, but can still score DEFCON for you. Free to go tomorrow. Yeah, that's not too shabby though. I mean, it's not like a great score on paper, but I take 34 all day long. Is Chris Wood a priority sell over Watkins? Based on the minutes, I think Chris Wood is more of a doubt to start against Sunderland than Watkins would against Fulham. So, yeah, that could certainly be a problem and a certain debate to be had. The thing is, though, in order to get Bruno Fernandes, for example, it's easier for me to sell Ollie Watkins. If I were to go to... Well, you know, I'll do that later when I go to the FPL.team section, but it is a very good point that you raise, and it's something I have considered actually after Chris Wood's awful performance today. He did nothing against Burnley. With the FDR, Nottingham Forest are top though, up until Game Week 11. Spurs, Chelsea, Man City and Everton are in the top 6, and once we get to Game Week 7, that's when Arsenal's fixtures turn for the better, and they go top of the FDR up until Game Week 12. The bottom teams include Liverpool, Fulham, Burnley, Bournemouth, and Manchester United. With predicted points, Haaland is top with 8.8. This could easily rise to 10, in my opinion, despite Burnley's solid defending in the last couple of matches. Semenyo is second, facing Leeds away. Salah is third. Palmer and Joao Pedro are in the top 5, but expect Palmer to suffer a dip after that injury today. Watkins, Foden, Chris Wood, O'Reilly, and Bruno Fernandes complete the top 10. And in terms of price changes, we could see Waldemar, Timber, Xavi Simons go up in price tonight. As for price falls, not all of these will happen, but Ismail Assar, Cherki, Murillo, De Kuyper, Marguillo, Fulkrug, Visser, Soucek, Tielemans, Gittins are all possible. And there are even more that came from. I probably just put the link in the description or in the live chat, as I did earlier today during that deadline stream. So have a look at livefpl.net. And a website, fpl.team. Not really, I'm in the same rank in millions. Prem is feeling really random in these early game weeks, but should have known that when so many teams change so much. Well, it's early days, right? But it is a fair point. I just think the points seem harder to come by, despite the fact we've got DEFCON and the likes of Caicedo are finally FPL options. But yeah, we're still learning more about this season. For a lot of people, JM, I did recommend not bench boosting this week, but there will be the odd person here that will have a very solid bench. It might not be that common, but it's still possible. Doku against Walker next game week is going to be filthy. Yeah, but Burnley could play a 5-4-1 if they have that Peruvian available. They could also play him to back up Walker. But yeah, on paper, Doku should have a field day there. That would obviously contradict your username. Man City are finished. GGMU, so unexpectedly, but I'll take it. I still won't touch United assets. Yeah, the only one I'm considering is Bruno Fernandes, and that's because I'm not convinced by the other midfielders, to be quite honest with you. Commonplace says, I have Cucurella, Spence, Lacroix, Reinildo Mandava, Aina, Salah, Palmer, Kudus, Reinders, Devaney, Gyökeres, Watkins, Ivanoson, 0 in the bank and 2 free transfers. Should I do Salah, Watkins to Haaland, Semenyo, or fixed defence? I would probably do that. The issue I've got, though, is that Cole Palmer is a doubt now going into Game Week 6. If you have enough squad depth, you could maybe bench him, but he costs way too much money to constantly have him on your bench. That would be a big concern. And I think he was in a great position to do well against Brighton, and he still could, but obviously he wasn't able to even go past the 30-minute mark today. Your defensive line doesn't look great on paper. Spence could still start against Wolves, but obviously Udogie got the nod and played relatively well against Brighton. Lacroix against Liverpool at home doesn't look great. Cucurella against his former club, it's not terrible. Aina's injured for a couple of months. Yeah, I understand your question. It's a very good one. But I just think Haaland and Semenyo have such a high ceiling in Game Week 6 and they're great long-term options. I would do those transfers. But the only concern I've got is that you've also got Palmer injured out and a weak defensive line. So it might even require a -4 hit, and that could involve a defender like Gabriel, who long-term will get the job done for you there. Thank you once again. I think that's to Ahmed. Thank you very much, mate, because you gifted a lot of memberships earlier as well. You're doing a lot for the channel, and it's genuinely appreciated. So to Mario Rodriguez, G-Man, Mr. Makey, Christopher Warburton, and Smith Giwani, enjoy the membership for an entire month. That means you'll get early access to my videos, also priority apply to comments, and that is very, very useful for FPL and Use Your Fantasy deadline streams, which can be very hectic, especially in the Champions League. So big up to Ahmed once again, and enjoy the victory, of course, for your club, and hopefully you're doing even better in FPL. G-Man says, finally sold Verts today. Yeah, things are looking up for you. The sun is shining from an FPL perspective because you sold him, and you were gifted a membership by the legend Ahmed. So thank you very much. Actually, I think this is... So I think Ahmed did it earlier, and this is Ahmed. So thank you very much to both of you, and also to Paredes and Napstars. All of you have done a lot for the channel, and it's really appreciated. Having a full revamp in Gameweek 6 wildcard. A lot of people are pushing towards this wildcard, and I think it's going to be a big debate this week. I completely get that. I'm not ruling it out myself. The most likely thing I'll do, though, is take a -4 hit, buy Erling Haaland, maybe Bruno Fernandes, and triple captain Erling Haaland. But apologies, Ahmed. I think because I saw a similar logo as well. And yeah, I just maybe have had a very long day. But thank you very much for the kind words and also for your contributions to the channel. You're very welcome, bud. Appreciate your hard work. Thank you. Yes, Ahmed, sorry. Sorry about that. That's bot behavior from me. Mario Rodriguez says, hi from Portugal. Wood or Watkins to Haaland and Salah to Bruno or another midfielder? Yeah, great question. So someone else earlier did point out, should we sell Wood over Watkins instead? He might be cheaper, but he's more at risk of not starting in Gameweek 6, and that would be a huge concern. The fixture is better on paper against Sunderland compared to Fulham, but yeah, it's a difficult one. As things stand, I'd lean towards selling Watkins, but I think Chris Wood is also sellable at this point, so that's where a wildcard could come in handy, or even taking a hit and selling both of them in the process. I think long-term Gyökeres is a great option to replace him, but you might have an issue with funds to buy Haaland and Gyökeres simultaneously. Yeah, Salah to Bruno looks good. I'm looking at something similar. If we are being honest, though, besides today and also that return against Burnley, which was a 97th minute penalty, if I remember correctly, he has blanked in every other game, but Fernandes will get bonus points whenever he scores or assists, and that's the main appeal with the Portuguese maestro. Thank you, Anish, for the super chat as well. 45 on bench boost with Senesi, Semenyo, Eze and Ra to go. Is it good? 2 free transfers. Yeah, it's good. Like I said before, though, I'm not exactly... Like, I don't know the context of your team. Like, who's on your bench and who's in your starting 11 to determine if it's a good bench boost, I guess. But the score is... That's a very solid score this week. I wish I had 45 points. Planning Salah to Bruno and Mateta to Haaland. Want to keep Igor Jesus just in case. Yeah, you might have a great opportunity there in Gameweek 6. I did say going into today that I wasn't convinced about Igor Jesus starting. I thought Chris Wood would start, but now I would have serious doubts about the New Zealand striker, and maybe Igor Jesus is a better fit for Ange, at least in the short term. So yeah, Fulham have scored. Iwobi with the goal. I'm just going to have a look at who got the assist, but thank you to Peter and Ahmad for updating me, because... What kind of... It's not a watch-along. At least I didn't advertise it as one, but I just haven't been able to get the game going so I can watch it as well. I'll have to watch in-depth highlights later, and maybe, if I can, get the full 90-minute footage and analyse more things. But Kevin isn't starting. I thought he could. Maybe he'll be used as an impact sub in the second half. Surely Watkins comes good. Let me bring up my my Twitter. You might be thinking, what are you doing, Dylan? What are you doing? But you'll see. I have tweeted about this, actually, and yeah, I'm just going to have a laugh about it because it has been a very, very poor week. Have any of you watched Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield back in the day? Well, that's how I kind of feel with Ollie Watkins tomorrow. He is the one to save my FPL team. Yeah, I think you know how this GIF ends. Amazing shot, great cinematography, fantastic stuff. But yeah, we all know how that goes for Miss Gwen Stacy. Spoiler alert. But let's go now to yeah, let's go to the stats. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I'm going to bring up the top captaincy options, and in the top 10k, Haaland is leading with 42% of the vote. That's not going to change, by the way, and it's not a vote. It's what people have gone for in the top 10k. Let's see if there's anything else here as well. So if we look at the top 100k, okay, no, for some reason this is glitched. Maybe I have to wait a couple of days. So only the top 10k is relevant, apparently. But yeah, this is another good website, FF Stuff. Joao Pedro was the third most captain in the top 10k. Semenyo fourth. That is looking really promising tomorrow against Newcastle. Toot Black Army. And Cole Palmer is fifth. Yeah, a bit unfortunate with that one, to be fair. With the red card and obviously with the injury as well. We'll see if he's available against Brighton in Game Week 6. Let me go to FPL.team. This is a really good resource. I'd highly recommend it. And I was looking at these sorts of transfers going into Game Week 6, buying Palmer for Mohamed Salah and Haaland to replace Watkins. But now I've got Chris Wood, who might not even start in Game Week 6. Cole Palmer might also be a doubt with the injury. Robert Sanchez, I mean, I need to double check this, but if he's available, yeah, I'll start him against Brighton. Obviously, he's suspended for one game, but that could be applied to the Carabao Cup, I believe. I mean, that is an EFL competition, though. The FA Cup and Premier League, yes, a red card would obviously transcend both. I think that's the case as well here, but I need to double check that, and I'm sure someone in the live chat will correct me if I'm wide off the mark. So despite having a really high expected points with this team, there are so many headaches now all of a sudden. And I've also got Reinders. Yeah, he's not third on my bench against Burnley. Yeah, let's ignore that. Let's also put Pedro Porro in for Lacroix. Better chance of a clean sheet. And Wolves are there for the taking. I think Spurs, despite suffering against Wolves at times, they're a bit of a bogey team for them. I think Spurs will get the win quite comfortably. Maybe I'll put Lacroix over Reinildo Mandava, although that's certainly debatable. And yeah, benching Reinders doesn't look great in Game Week 6. But what I could do here is instead of Palmer, I can buy Fernandes or Caicedo. Those are the two midfielders I'm looking at. And in that case, I don't have to buy Senesi. And instead, I'll keep Gabriel Magalhaes. So this might need a refresh. I think that's probably worth it. Let's reset the game week and go again. So these are my initial plans for Game Week 6. And they will be covered, of course, in my team selection in a couple of days' time. So let's put Reinders first on the bench. Let's put Lacroix second. I'll put Sanchez in there, but yeah, I need to have the definitive answer here. And this is why it's a reaction stream. It's literally on the cuff, and more research will be done over the coming days, and every single detail will be addressed in my upcoming videos for the wildcard squad, my team selection, and the transfer tips, which will be very interesting going into Game Week 6. So starting Conte home to Fulham, Gabriel away to Newcastle, Borro at home to Wolves, not too shabby. And then let's see if I can do something like this. Chris Wood to Haaland, if I have doubts about him starting. And then Salah to Fernandes, I can't afford. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I could just do Caicedo and then bench Caicedo against Brighton, even though he'll probably get 4 points minimum against his former club. Captain Haaland, triple captain him. That obviously increased the expected points to 68.2. Yeah, that also could work fairly well. But otherwise, Bruno Fernandes and... yeah, Bruno Fernandes would come in instead of Caicedo, and I could sell Watkins instead of Chris Wood in Game Week 6. But, of course, it's just an initial take, and things are subject to change with this squad. With FPL Challenge, I'm at least doing well in one fantasy format, right? I'm getting 41 points once they add Mateta's bonus. So that's going to be 7 from Mateta, 20 from Salah, 8 from Van Dijk, and 4 from Alisson. Chris Wood stinking out the gaff, and Semenyo is yet to play tomorrow. I can still change that, but to be quite honest with you, I kind of forget to change certain things because you've basically got until every single match to change things, and you have the benefit of seeing the lineups unlike Fantasy Premier League. Let me now go back to my FPL team, but maybe we can discuss FPL Challenge a little bit more. But Semenyo is going to be one of my prime candidates to be in my final FPL Challenge squad, that's for sure. I've got no Fulham or Brentford players, so from an FPL perspective, that's not looking particularly great. And let me see who I've got on the assists. Oh, it's 2 on Fulham. I'm sure someone has said that in the live chat. Harry Wilson and Iwobi with the goals. And guess what? Iwobi and Manice with the assists. King has been yellow carded. So if anyone started him this week, I do apologise. By the way, it's looking good, my prediction now. I did say 3-2 Fulham. And this was a game I was backing for goals. And we've got 3 in the first half already. Kelleher has made 2 saves, and as things stand, Iwobi is on 3 bonus points, Wilson's on 2, and Damsgaard is on 1. So a very good match here for the midfielders. Really good stuff. So let's get the stream to 200 likes. That'll be the aim by the end. And also to keep on pushing. We hit 36,000 subscribers today. And only a couple of days ago, we hit 35k. So it's all thanks to your support. All the members, patrons, subscribers, likers. Yeah, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Thank you very much. And let's get back into your questions. I'm sure there will be a lot of interesting ones in the live chat. And once again, a big shout out to Ahmed and also to Ahmad earlier. You're both massively appreciated. I actually forgot to put a super chat goal, but either way, this will be just a bit of a calm stream. We'll make it a very simple goal if I can actually do this, but yeah, YouTube can be a bit of a pain sometimes. Ahmed says, hi Dylan, or hey, what do you think of triple captain on Haaland next game week? Yeah, despite Burnley's solid defending in the last 2 game weeks, I'd do it. I really would. You've also got Erling Haaland facing the other newly promoted sides in the first half of the season at home. But I think Burnley is still going to be a very good one for Man City stylistically. My prediction is for City to lose tomorrow. I really hope they do. But I think they'll get a comprehensive win against Burnley by 3 or 4 goals. And Haaland will obviously score the bulk of them. So yeah, my advice is to do it. It's not really going to be rocket science. You don't need someone to make a video to recommend Haaland as a triple captaincy option against Burnley at home. His record against the Clarets is incredible as well. So I agree with Mario too. I've just activated my wild card and Haaland and Salah are in. Yeah, if you can make that work, that looks really appealing. No Cole Palmer, and ultimately he might even miss out in Gameweek 6 anyway. So yeah, I'll double check this, Ayad. But I'm pretty sure because it's a last man professional foul, he's only suspended for 1 game. And yeah, we've also got the Carabao Cup in midweek. But yeah, I'm going to answer this question definitively because yeah, like I said, this is a reaction stream off the cuff, and normally I have these things, you know, I know these things, but yeah, today I'm looking like an absolute fool, so I do apologize in advance. So I'm going to search this up. Okay, so yeah, red cards in the Premier League, FA Cup and EFL, as I said before, they do carry over. So Robert Sanchez will miss that game in midweek. Jorgensen will surely start there. And he could still get the nod in Gameweek 6, I believe. Yeah, it's a 1-game ban, as I said before, so I was correct. I just wasn't entirely sure about it. So, yeah, Sanchez will miss the game in midweek, and he should be available in Gameweek 6. But after the stinker today, well, I'm not going to start Dubravka away to Man City. I said that in my team selection. So I'm going to start Robert Sanchez and hope he doesn't get punished for his stupidity today. But I honestly wouldn't blame Maresca if he did and went for Jorgensen. But, yeah, I think if I'm correct about this, I believe Sanchez will be available against Brighton. Let me just double check that for you again. So yeah, Chelsea are playing Lincoln. And the match takes place on Wednesday. Wednesday? Oh, am I stupid? Probably. No, I think it's... Yeah, I'm being a bit stupid right now. But yeah, on the 23rd of September, Chelsea are playing Lincoln. Sanchez is suspended for that, and he's available against Brighton. So that clears it up. Yeah, sorry for the delay, but I just wanted to make sure. And yeah, I don't know why I took that long. Same here, Zayad. I was on a green arrow, a 7-point swing compared to Dubravka. I really wish in hindsight I went for the Burnley goalkeeper, but it is what it is. Give Anderson the assist for vibes. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Iwobi assist and goal, Wilson goal. Yeah, really promising stuff from the midfielders. Damsgaard obviously for Brentford as well. A high-scoring game as anticipated, but yeah, let's see if there are even more in the second half. Cal says, is it me or is the FPL app so slow and unresponsive? You wouldn't be the only one, and I've had many issues with the app and the website. I keep getting signed out. It has happened less, to be fair, recently, But even during deadline streams, I've been signed out. And that's always been a concern for me if I wanted to make a transfer with more information and stuff at my disposal. So I'd be a bit careful with the website this season. So yeah, Iwobi Hall, exactly that. Iwobi assist as well. Yeah, he's not going to get 20 points in my opinion, but I'll happily be proven wrong. I do like Iwobi. So yeah, people were providing updates in the live chat. A big up to everyone. Yeah, no clean sheet today, exactly that. And someone did ask me today, and it was a good question, and I thought it was a good point. Is this a week to go 5 at the back? And I thought maybe 4, but my kind of guess, and you saw that in my predictions for the scorelines, is that there won't be many clean sheets, and there will be a lot of games that are like 1-1, or they're a bit frustrating, and you don't get that clean sheet over the line. And there's still time for tomorrow. Maybe one of Bournemouth or Arsenal can keep one. I've actually backed Villa to keep one against Sunderland, but as things stand, it might even be a game week of no clean sheets whatsoever. 5 weeks of bad players at big prices. Wirtz has to go. Yeah, and you're a Liverpool fan. Obviously, you'll be happy with the result. You got the job done again. But a few concerns for Liverpool, especially in the second half, and Florian Wirtz hasn't clicked whatsoever. Yeah, the other GIF was during the UCL deadline. Yes, that's why I've gotten confused a little bit. So once again, apologies for that. But a big up to you and to all the others who have gifted memberships over the last couple. So yeah, Mario's question was covered, but let me know if I haven't. I think, yeah, my chat resetted for some reason. So yeah, it doesn't actually show me which ones I've gone through. Palmer to Bruno. I'd wait first for more information. If Palmer's available, I prefer him over Bruno long term. But in my situation now, I might buy Bruno Fernandes for Salah and then get Erling Haaland for Watkins for a -4. Surely Watkins comes good. Yeah, that one I went through. Sorry about that. Who would you play in Game Week 6, Lacroix or Elliot Anderson? Yeah, Anderson did get DEFCON, to be fair, today. Even though it's a fixture, you wouldn't really expect to get DEFCON in from a midfielder. I'm going to say Elliot Anderson. Just about. Would you do Salah and Watkins to Haaland and Foden 2 free transfers? Probably, yeah. Now, Foden is a risk. I think he'll start tomorrow against Arsenal, but there's no guarantee he does against Burnley. But in my opinion, City will rotate in midweek in the Carabao Cup against Huddersfield and then go with a relatively strong team that includes Foden against Burnley. So it's a punt, but Foden is my second favourite City attacker right now. Yeah, exactly that, onesie Celsius, but then again, when will Keller keep a clean sheet? It's going to take a while. Then need a -4 to get Wirtz out. Not sure who to put in, says Marcus. Bruno Fernandes could be one, but if you don't have Semenyo, just go to Semenyo. He is the best midfielder in FPL right now. Sajda says, should I do Aina, Salah, Wood to Haaland, Senesi, Paqueta, then Gemic 7, Gyökeres to Richarlison? I would not sell Gyökeres to Richarlison. No chance. Maybe you're talking about the other way around, because surely when Arsenal have a fixture swing, you're not going to sell Gyökeres. And West Ham, by the way, they are awful from set pieces. They might have scored from one themselves through Jarrod Bowen, but Gabriel, he has to feast against the Hammers again, surely. But yeah, don't sell Gyökeres to Richarlison. As for Aina and Salah, Wood to Haaland, Senesi, Paqueta. I like Senesi and Haaland, and Paqueta's decent. I'd probably say yes. I'd go for it. But Caicedo over Paqueta is my recommendation. Sydney says, all week I was bullish about Dubravka over Sanchez. When Burley conceded, I could not have imagined they'd outscore Sanchez by 7 points. Fair play, you got it spot on. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Even if one of Sanchez or Dubravka outscored the other, no one expected a 7-point swing. But these things can happen, and ultimately that red card was very costly for Chelsea and some of our FPL teams. Had Sanchez in goal, the red card really hurt bad. Yeah, I'm on a red arrow because of him. The less said, the better. Let's keep it PG. I benched Dubravka for Sanchez on deadline. I hate myself now. Yeah, look, it's not a bad decision on paper. I think a lot of us would have predicted both Burnley and Chelsea to concede, and many people had Chelsea to win today. So, yeah, the red card was obviously a moment of madness. It happens with defenders and goalkeepers, but obviously for it to happen to a goalkeeper is even rarer, and Robert Sanchez unfortunately does have calamitous errors in him. Does Sanchez miss Game Week 6? So yeah, he's not going to miss it based on the research I just did to kind of reaffirm my sort of insecurities about it. But as covered before, it's going to be a 1-game ban, and it does carry over to the Carabao Cup. So Chelsea will play Lincoln on Wednesday, I believe. No, I'm stupid. I'm actually, it's on Tuesday, right? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Tuesday, Wednesday, yada, yada, yada. So Sanchez will miss that game and he'll be available against his former club, Brighton, because for a professional last man foul, it's a 1-game ban. For foul play, that would then be a 3-game ban, and sometimes it could be 5 or more. But in this case, it's a 1-game ban. Sell Guiu and Salah for Haaland and Rangers today. If something went wrong, just wildcard or wait with the transfers. I'd probably wait for the transfers. If you're not going to be priced out, then just wait. You know, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's always a possibility that one of your players gets injured tomorrow. That could include your potential new signings, Haaland and Rangers. So I just wait for the information if possible. Now, I hold my hands up. I normally do that, but last week I bought Semenyo on Saturday for Ismail Assar after Bournemouth's game was done, and I was just that bullish on buying Semenyo. I was like, yeah, he's in. Just get it done with. But I think in most situations you want to wait for information. Xavi Simons and Ndai or Kudus and Grealish? I'd go for Xavi Simons and Ndai. They're both good duos. I just don't think you'll get many goals from Kudus and Grealish. With Ndai, you can get Defcon from time to time. Xavi Simons is more exciting than Kudus, albeit he might not be as nailed on as the Ghanaian. Gvardiol is my favourite Man City defender. He can play as a centre-back and also on the left. I just don't think he's as good as Virgil van Dijk and Gabriel long-term. And even Munoz and Lacroix from Crystal Palace. But yeah, if you want to target those City fixtures from Gameweek 6 onwards, Gvardiol is my recommendation in that defensive line. So if I'm ranking City assets, it would be Haaland first, Foden second, Gvardiol third, and Reinders fourth, actually. You could definitely argue Doku's ahead of Reinders, but I think Reinders has underperformed recently, and he should get some returns soon. Mick says, took a hit to bring Haaland. Who am I triple captaining? Oh, sorry, who I am triple captaining. Yeah, obviously you're not going to ask who I'm triple captaining. Yeah, managed to keep Salah by sacrificing Isak, Sanchez and Mateta for Darlow and Foster. Well, Darlow could be a decent 4 million backup at this moment in time, so I'm guessing you got Dubravka and Darlow. Not a big fan of that, but Leeds United are near the top of the FDR up until Gameweek 10, so not a terrible shout actually. And I talked about this in my wildcard video. Should I do Haaland and Semenyo in for Mateta and Salah tonight or wait? I would wait, but yeah, Haaland and Semenyo is a better duo right now. Yeah. I'd probably make that transfer in a couple of days' time with more information. Thank you, Marcus. He says, thanks. If you got any message or comment, then let me know. Yeah, truth, -3. Let's not talk about Sanchez. Can we pretend he doesn't exist in FPL? Cheers. Start Anderson or Dewsbury Hall in Gameweek 6? Yeah, another good question. I would go for Dewsbury Hall. He was also close to scoring today. Yeah, it was a really good shot. But yeah, Dewsbury Hall for me. And he got a ridiculous booking. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's now 1 yellow card away from suspension. And can someone tell me why Dewsbury Hall was booked for taking a quick free kick? These referees are actually on one. What are they actually thinking of? They're literally making up things as they go along. Like last season, yeah, you're going to get booked for, you know, the second, what is it, for kicking the ball away. I know that was actually a rule, but now you see so many people doing it, like Verts today. No, I can't see it, sorry. They turn into Stevie Wonder. I don't know what's happening. Onesie Celsius says, watch Sunderland win 1-0 and Verts score a hat-trick against Palace next week just to make me feel worse. I said this a few weeks ago, even today. Don't be surprised to see the likes of Verts, Watkins, and all these horrible assets so far this season perform when they're sold in droves. It's just FPL heritage, unfortunately. I was planning on bench boosting next week. Now Sanchez is out. Like I said, he's only banned for the Carabao Cup game. It's a 1-game ban. It carries over to other cup competitions, including the Carabao. He's going to be available against Brighton. Does he start? There's a slight element of doubt there, but I still think he gets the nod over Jorgensen. Yeah, same here, Mario. I really hate Sanchez right now. I'm on Dubravka all week. I'll be honest, I was never on Dubravka, but maybe I should have considered it more. I really should have, but no one could have foreseen a red card. I think what we probably would have expected is for Chelsea to concede and also for Burnley and for it to be 2 and 3 points from these goalkeepers. Dubravka got 4, really good performance. He might even get 5 if the bonus points are altered by tomorrow. And yeah, in the case of Sanchez, just an absolute disaster. Yes, possible, Miko. Sanchez is a bit of a favourite, though, from Maresca. Ever since he joined, he was quite bullish on him, and maybe he'll stick with him and try to show him faith. But yeah, there's definitely a reason to bench him. I do have a wildcard team from a few days ago, mate. It includes Bruno Fernandes and Erling Haaland, so that is still relevant. I'm going to wait for tomorrow's matches before building a wildcard team in this video, but yeah, the wildcard is a possibility for me. It's more likely I'll take a -4 hit and triple captain Haaland, though. As I'm pulling the trigger and using it, that's fair enough. I think what you want to do right now is buy players who are expected to rise just in case, because if they do go up by 0.2 million before the deadline, you can then sell them, gain 0.1 in selling value, and that can help you buy the players you really want for your final 50-man squad. But as I said before, in the midfield, I'd consider something like Bruno Fernandes and Caicedo, Semenyo as well. Those four would definitely be a lock on the wild card. Erling Haaland up front, Gyökeres if possible, Gabriel defensively. If not, you can cover Arsenal with David Raya in goal. I'd still go for a Palace defender like Munoz or Lacroix, and you can't go wrong with Richards, Mark Gay, Mitchell's absolutely fine as well. They're all good, but yeah, it's between Lacroix or Munoz for me if you can. So those sorts of players would make up the bulk of the wild card. João Pedro as well. I'm a Chelsea fan, and that's confirmed. Yeah, exactly. One game and the cup game counts. Yeah, thank you, Ahmed, for providing clarity. I get it, you know, red card, oh, how many games is he missing? He's out for like 3 game weeks. No, 1 game ban. It's in the Carabao. He's available for game week 6. I kind of doubted myself because I just couldn't believe the red card when it happened. I was just fearing the worst, but I said it from the beginning of the stream, even though I wasn't sure. He's only going to miss 1 game, and that is the case. LFC says, hi, Dylan, Chalobah Gay saved my day. Okay, nice little rhyme there, internal rhyme. 25 points with Haaland captain, Eze, Semenyo, Timber to play. Yeah, that Chalobah goal would have been very nice, actually, especially with Chelsea going down to 10 men, albeit he scored when United also went down to 10. And yeah, Mark Gay, he also got the assist, right? He hit the crossbar, and then Mateta, yeah. Mark Gay's been decent in recent FPL weeks. A good set of players left. Obviously, you've got that sort of clash between Timber and Haaland captain, but I think Semenyo could be very useful, actually. I'm really hoping he carries me tomorrow because I have no faith in Conso or Watkins. Jose the Special Mo says 31 points and Semenyo and Watkins to play. Not too shabby. My idea is to make 3 transfers, -4. Sanchez to Martinez, I wouldn't do that. If you've got Sanchez and Dubravka, remember, Sanchez is available. Taking it for a goalkeeper, especially when it's Martinez, Villa's fixtures turn for the worst soon, I wouldn't do that. Larson to Haaland, looks nice. Salah to a mid below 6.7. Yeah, I'd go for Ndiaye or Caicedo. I prefer both of them over Kudus. Yeah, which mid best, and then wildcard in 8. Well, Ndiaye has the highest ceiling. He'll score more goals than Caicedo, that goes without saying. But yeah, in terms of DEFCON, Caicedo will get it in virtually every game. Even against, Liverpool at home or whatever it is coming up soon, and Brighton. Yeah, Caicedo's a machine. But Ndiaye has also gotten DEFCON in the last 2 games. Very impressive for a winger. Yeah, one of those 2 for sure, but don't get Emi Martinez for Sanchez. No, not for me. Got 8 points on the bench boost with Rangers left to play, good or bad? Not terrible. I think, yeah, you're looking at least 10 points, right, on the bench boost, assuming Rangers starts tomorrow. I saw a few people doubt that in City forums and stuff and podcasts, apparently, but I think he will start. Yeah, if Rangers gets a goal, that turns into a decent bench boost all of a sudden, especially in a single game week. So there's still time. As things stand, it looks very average, but yeah, I think if you're looking at 15 points or above, that is suddenly pretty good. I had Pape Mate Sarr, but he did not play. Reinders is my sub. So I have Reinders, Haaland, and Timber to play. Palmer was my captain. Yeah, mixed bag of emotions there. At least you got another opportunity. It would have been worse if Sarr came on for a 1-pointer. LFC fan says, I'm using my free hit. Where should I invest? I've got Donnarumma, Dubravka, Tarkovsky, Senesi, Porro, Van der Ven, Goodmanson, Salah, Semenyo, Reinders, Garner, Elliot Anderson, Haaland, JP, Evanilson. You could consider Foden instead of Reinders. And you could also go for Gvardiol to cover City defensively and choose a different goalkeeper. That's another possibility for you. But yeah, overall, I like the bulk of your team. Pedro Porro has been underwhelming recently. Senesi away to Leeds can still get DEFCON. A clean sheet is possible, but much better from Leeds today. Obviously, they scored 3 goals, and that's been the main concern. Defensively, they're solid, but they haven't created too many chances or scored enough. And that could definitely lay a solid platform for the future. And they're quite solid at Ellen Road, right? It wouldn't surprise me if Leeds got a result against Bournemouth next week. I'd still fancy Bournemouth, but it's worth mentioning that. Yeah, Salah against Palace away looks good. If Palmer is fit and ready to start, I do like him against Brighton, but that reoccurring groin injury is a major concern right now. So yeah, a lot of different options maybe for Game Week 6, but I would consider Foden. That would be a priority, even though his minutes aren't completely secure. Weising says, big loss for us. Obviously, that's dumb tactical change in this match, and I think the main reason we played badly in September is due to fatigue. These players haven't got enough rest after the Club World Cup. Yeah, I could see that. And our rotation players nowhere near the same level compared to the starters. So if you look at the other finalists of the Club World Cup, Paris Saint-Germain, they play in a much weaker league where they have rotated multiple times. And obviously they've had a few key injuries already to Dembele and Doué, which might have to do with playing too much football and stuff like that. But yeah, Chelsea might be suffering from fatigue, you are right. But you do have a lot of options in certain positions, especially on the wings. You've got Garnacho, you've got all these different players like Gittins, and maybe more rotation is needed. I know there was against Brentford, but yeah, Chelsea, with all the money they've spent, they've got a good starting 11, some quality players like Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Palmer, and Joao Pedro. But then you look at other options in that team, especially defensively, and it looks really bad. And that's why I never thought Chelsea were in the title conversation. It's still early days, but I think Chelsea will finish 4th or 5th. I think they'll be around Tottenham this season in the Prem. I think City will be the clear 3rd team. They might even push above that, of course. Arsenal and Liverpool look the best right now, and obviously Liverpool are in pole position to win the title, and they are the favourites considering their big signings. Yeah, he will serve in midweek, yeah. So just to clarify to everyone watching, Sanchez is available for Game Week 6. Will he start? I can't guarantee it. He might get punished because he was an idiot today, but he is available against his former club, Brighton. Austin says Game Week 6 looks really tempting for free hit. Is it worth going for, Dylan? I don't know your team. It hasn't really crossed my mind, to be honest. It's more likely that I'd wildcard than use the free hit in Game Week 6. But my most likely avenue is to triple captain Haaland as part of a -4 hit. That is what I'm looking at right now. So the free hit hasn't been a consideration for me personally. So yeah, wildcard is certainly a good opportunity to do that. I'm looking at Game Week 8, I think, for this chip. And I talked about this in my chip strategy video and also earlier in the deadline stream. CKA Friend says 35 points with Watkins constant to go. Not too bad. I've basically got 22 with those two players and Semenyo. Does Semenyo make up 13 points? Probably not. But I think Semenyo is pretty good. So yeah, not too shabby for you, mate. Is Semenyo or Haaland going up in price tonight? No. Semenyo went up in price. Well, in fact, both of them did the other day. Unless FPL do a madness, I think the price change will happen later in the week, not now. So save your transfers if possible. Wait for tomorrow's games, then you can pull the trigger. But we've also got Carabao Cup action in midweek. Yeah, FPL app lagging badly. iPhone 12 Pro. Yeah, you could have the iPhone 16 or the 17. Woo! But I think it's a problem with the app, not with the software or the hardware in this case. Yeah, software would be the wrong terminology there. Watkins needs a hat-trick and 3 assists from Rangers would help. Yeah, forget the last part. Rangers could just do one on the bench, but Watkins, yeah, if you got a massive return tomorrow, that would probably make up for it, in my opinion. But I did captain him in Game Week 2, so maybe not. Yeah, with Watkins, look, right now, I'd absolutely sign up for a goal, 3 bonus points, 9-pointer. Yeah, I'd be very happy with that, but I don't think that'll be the case. As a Palmer captainer, I was happy to see Salah only get an assist. Had JP, Sanchez, and Palmer. Horrible game week for me again. Yeah, it wasn't looking too bad for me, but Sanchez ruined it. And the captaincy has been absolutely open this week. I thought Salah was the clear standout on paper. Now it looks like Erling Haaland could steal the show once more. I really hope he doesn't tomorrow. Steven says currently on Donnarumma and double Spurs defense on wildcard. I've said this multiple times with Spurs. They have looked better defensively under Thomas Frank. A very well-earned point today, coming back from 2-0 down, but I don't back that double up defensively long-term. I think one's enough. And their fixtures turn very soon in Game Week 10, so the answer is no for me. Donnarumma could be quite underrated. He should make a lot of saves because City are quite vulnerable defensively. He's a big presence, and he'll be a difference maker for City, but yeah, I don't think the double Spurs defense works beyond the next 3. I'm ready to wildcard slightly ahead of schedule. that's fine. Being open-minded and adaptable is a quality that a lot of FPL managers will want to have, of course, but yeah, I'm looking at Game Week 8 more so, and it's all team dependent, right? I can get to Bruno Fernandes and Haaland for a -4 and triple captain the Norwegian robot. I like that more than a wildcard, where I still need to learn a little bit more for this season. Albeit for UCL Fantasy, I might wildcard in matchday 2, but that's all covered in my chip strategy guide. Staffan says, activate the wildcard. Yeah, I haven't made a wildcard team just yet. I can build one off the cuff, but it's worth waiting for my wildcard video because I can see what happens tomorrow. There could be further injury updates, for example, and stuff like that, suspensions and team news. But yeah, I'll probably build one now since it's a very popular question. But it's very, very rough. I have to say that now. What you see here is going to be my provisional Game Week 6 team selection. So I'm just going to quickly save that and refer to this in my video. So let's go to the wildcard as well. Okay, let's load the wildcard. And let's get this show on the road. I'm guessing a lot of you will get your popcorn. Don't judge, eat fudge. Because, yeah, there could be a few, not horrendous picks, but you might question a few of these. But in the midfield, that's the part I'm most confident about because, I'll be honest, I think there are a lack of options there. So 4 options stand out for me in this position. So I'm going to get rid of Salah for now. If I can find a way to fit him and Haaland in, I'll do so, but no guarantees there. It's more likely that I won't. Moises Caicedo comes in. The same goes for Bruno Fernandes. Let's bring him in. And I'm considering Gakpo to Xavi Simons, or Curtis isn't too shabby. Obviously, Palmer was a serious consideration for me before today's injury. Chris Wood can do one. He might start against Sunderland. If he does, it could be one last hurrah, but I'm very concerned about his minutes. So let's bring in Victor Gyökeres. Let's also bring in Erling Haaland. So I'm going to struggle with the funds, I think. Let's do Pedro Porro down. Or maybe up to Gvardiol. I would consider a City defender and also Phil Foden in the midfield. I would consider that, but it would require either more funds or downgrading Bruno Fernandes to Phil Foden. Let's put one of Reinildo Mandava or Goodmanson in that defensive line. Yeah, Gabriel keeps his spot if possible. Konsa could also make way. And let's do Pedro Porro to Senesi. So we're making progress. And yes, I haven't forgotten. Sanchez is available. But piss off, you absolute... Let's keep it PG again. Donnarumma. That could be decent. 1.1 million off the mark. Let's see if we can find anything else to make this work. Konsa to Van der Ven. We need 1.3 million now. Let's maybe do Bruno Fernandes to Gakpo. This is a rough team. I have to stress this. A rough wildcard team. But, in my humble opinion, it's not too shabby. I've got exactly the amount of funds to build this wildcard squad. And yeah, you've got a pun in there in Foden, Triple City to target their fixture swing. You've got Gabriel and Gyökeres away to Newcastle, but Arsenal's fixtures turn for the bet in Game Week 7. You can captain Haaland. Remember, you can't use 2 chips at the same time, so bear that in mind. I'd probably vice-captain Semenyo right now, and you could start Gakpo over Caicedo, but I think Gakpo will probably be sopped off before 60. He might not even start at Selhurst Park. And you could start Gabriel, Senesi, and Van der Ven with Donnarumma. That looks pretty good, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. This could also be the final wildcard squad. But I do like Ndiaye. I said this multiple times this season. He's my favourite Everton midfielder, even over Grealish, who is the flavour of the month. Dewsbury Hall is decent for 5 million, but Ndiaye will get the most goals of that team. What am I doing? I'm an absolute moron. Yes, but let me get the wildcard back. And, okay, yeah, it's all done, right? Yeah, it's all saved, and I'll get back to this. We'll see what if anything changes tomorrow. Obviously, Triple C is still a little bit like, whoa, Pep Roulette could definitely screw this over. But you have the squad depth there. You can bench one of Caicedo, Gakpo. They can come in for Foden if needed. Ultimately, though, 1-pointers will be a big concern. Mystical says, play your wildcard. I mean, I'll give this a 4. It's just, I can get to a -4 here and build a similar sort of team. Let's not forget, I've got Semenyo and Ndiaye already. I've got Gabriel. To be fair, I don't have Senesi, but I can buy Haaland and Bruno Fernandes for a -4. I've got Gakpo. I've got Lacroix, I've got Dubravka and Reinildo or any 4 million defender. So I don't think I have to wildcard personally. That's just my opinion. If we compare it to my current squad or what I could have in Game Week 6 with a -4 hit. And remember, I would triple captain Haaland. What the hell is this 2 at the back formation? That's a little glitch there. So let's make sure to bring in Gabriel for... Yeah, Caicedo. That was a little glitch. Let's also bring in Bruno Fernandes. And let's bring in Wood instead of Watkins. So yeah, 0.4 in the bank. I could do something like this. And then I would have a benching headache, actually. Maybe I'll bench Gakpo, which is definitely debatable. But yeah, I'll get back to that. So if you really think about it, triple captain Haaland and this team versus the wildcard, I'm not so sure. And ultimately, I could wildcard in 7 or 8 anyway, and then triple up on Arsenal, maybe tone it down with City and go to 2 players. But yeah, it's an improvement. The expected points is actually in my favour with the triple captaincy on Haaland being heavily favoured by the algorithm. But yeah, let's see with Gakpo as well. He's actually lower ranked than Caicedo this week. And what about Reinders? Yeah, he's also preferred over Cody Gakpo. So that's my current setup. This is what I'll likely go for in Game Week 6. I could also buy Caicedo and Erling Haaland and keep Ollie Watkins for 1 more week and sell Chris Wood instead if I have doubts about him starting. But that would mean no Bruno Fernandes, obviously. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. And let's bring up that other scenario. Let's see if I can buy Phil Foden and then triple up on City's attack against Burnley. That could be quite underrated too. So let's sell Chris Wood. Let's get Haaland. And then Salah to Foden. I've actually got enough money for this as well. So as you can see, I've got different plans there already. I can then triple up on City offensively against Burnley. Albeit they don't favour this as much as the Bruno Fernandes route. And ultimately, he's the better asset than Foden long term. But yeah, let's also bring in Gabriel for Lacroix. That will also not help, apparently. But yeah, he can get DEFCON. So yeah, those are some initial plans already off the cuff using the website fpl.team. I'd highly recommend it. You can also visualize future game weeks and see how it looks in game week 7, 8, and assess the quality of the wildcard too. Yeah, triple captain Haaland is my preference at the moment, yeah. Oh, hell no. What a horror match day. Yes, it's been terrible. I would have been okay with it if Sanchez didn't get red carded, but yeah. So as people did say, I just forgot to mention it because we were engrossed in other questions. Yeah, it's 3-1 Fulham. So I wish I could see this game. And 3-2 was my prediction. An own goal by Pinnock. Let me just provide the update on who got the FPL assist. That would obviously be quite handy. Let's get to 200 likes. There are 300 people tuning in, which I appreciate because there is a quality game of football going on as we speak. And I will be watching that intently once the game is over, which is not really what you want to do. I want to watch it live, but yeah, let's not talk about that too much. So the assist for the 3rd goal has gone to Sessegnon. Lukic and King have been booked. Obviously, Pinnock scored the own goal just now. Leno has made 1 save, Kelleher on 2. And in terms of bonus points, it's still the same as before. Iwobi's on 3, Harry Wilson has 2, and Damsgaard has 1, which is fair on paper based on the goals and assists. I haven't seen the game, unfortunately, but I will be watching it as soon as this is over. It's 4-1 now, apparently, according to Man City are finished. What is happening? Oh dear, I said 3-2 Fulham. And Brentford took the lead, let's not forget. But they have absolutely fumbled this. Rodrigo Muniz has scored. That's a goal and assist for the Brazilian. He is the first choice striker for Fulham now. It's obviously goes without saying. Good performance today. And Brentford are suddenly back in the mud. They went for this back 5 formation again, and it's not really working at this moment in time. Are 5 defenders good for Game Week 6? I was asked this going into Game Week 5. I'm probably going to say no. I mean, Liverpool defenders against Palace look okay. But ultimately, it was 2-2 in the Community Shield final a couple of months ago. Gabriel away to Newcastle. I think it'll be low scoring, but I think Newcastle will score. Spurs against Wolves looks okay. So I think Border, Van de Ven are fine. Romero. concert home to Fulham, I think he'll concede. Yeah, Man City look good against Burnley, to be fair. So it all depends on who you have. But I don't think it's a week for 5 defenders, to be honest. Unless you stack up on DEFCON players like Tarkovsky, basically. But yeah, I don't think so. Probably a week for 3 or 4 at the back, depending on your personnel. So let's go back to my FPL team. Obviously, I showed you my provisional wildcard squad for Gameweek 6. This will be talked about in my wildcard podcast with more detail. There could be a few changes as well. And I talked about some initial transfer plans for me. What do you prefer, based on what I showed you, to buy Phil Foden and Haaland for a -4 hit and triple captain, to use the wildcard and go to that squad, which looks quite good on paper, to be fair, with Donnarumma in goal, or to buy Bruno Fernandes and Haaland, and that would mean selling Watkins instead of Chris Wood. So there were going to be some really big decisions, actually, 50-50 calls in my opinion. And I think whoever I decide to sell between Watkins and Wood could decide how I do in Game Week 6. I need to get that spot on, and then obviously it comes down to Bruno Fernandes and Foden as well. Yeah, Gay's a good pick. I just prefer Munoz and Lacroix long term, but recently Gay has been pretty good actually. He can score DEFCON, and he's getting a few goal contributions, but I expect that to dry out pretty soon. So yeah, let's go to Wei Seng's comments about Chelsea. Big loss for us. Oh, did I? Yeah, I mentioned that one already, so yeah, sorry about that. And our rotation players are nowhere near the same level compared to the starters. Yes, and that's a big concern when you spent so much money, and that needs to be addressed in future windows. I think what Arsenal have done well this season, or this summer, is to really bolster the quality of their bench, and now their second team could, in my opinion, finish top 5 in the Prem. That might seem a bit big-headed, but that's the way I feel with some of those quality players there. Sell Gakpo for Gravenberch? No. Gravenberch has been Liverpool's best player in the Premier League this season, ever since returning from suspension in Game Week 2. But Gakpo is going to score more goals this season, and at a similar price, you've got Caicedo and a few other options I've discussed. I'd rather go to them than Gravenberch. Got Sanchez and Captain Palmer. Not ideal. Let's keep an eye out for Palmer's fitness, but it's the same groin problem as before. Oh yeah, Ahmed, sorry, I didn't see this. Sold Bruno for Semenyo. Yeah, not looking good at the moment, but Semenyo is a better option long term. On a wild card, I'd have both, which I talked about a few days ago. Ultimately, though, if you want Phil Foden and Donnarumma, that's something I'm kind of considering. Maybe I'll go for Foden over Bruno on that sort of squad structure, but ideally it would be Fernandes. Forced outscoring Joao Pedro on my bench one of those weeks. Yes, it's been a very bizarre one, to say the least. Yeah, wildcard week, I think. 2 free transfers, but wildcard seems the better shout. And setting up with Arsenal players and catching some price rises. I get that. From my perspective and my team, I'm not entirely convinced. That won't be the case for everyone watching, though. Norris says, play my bench boost Williams and Dubravka on the bench. That's really good, actually. That's, yeah, nice. Good bench boost. And Williams is getting bonus points, so enjoy that. There's also a chance that Dubravka sneaks into it and gets 5 points overall because he's so close to getting that 1 bonus point in the BPS. So yeah, 46 points, good score. Everton player away at Liverpool. Yeah, but in quality FPL asset. I'm really happy with that. All 3 Liverpool defenders and Gravenberch ended up getting DEFCON points. Yeah. So I'm guessing you're saying Kanate, Van Dijk and Kirkers, right? I'll double check that though. Might have been every single Liverpool defender. There were a lot of DEFCON hit. There was a lot of DEFCON hit in that Merseyside derby. I'll double check that for you. So, yeah, Gravenberch, Kanate, Ekatika was so close. Yeah, Kirkus hit it, Virgil van Dijk. Yeah, Conor Bradley was nowhere near it. He had 5. But yeah, you are correct. 3 Liverpool defenders got it. Foden on wildcard 6, potentially. I do prefer Bruno Fernandes though, and Semenyo is the best midfielder in FPL right now. Should I wildcard or is a -8 okay? It depends on which transfers you're making for that -8 hit and which other moves would you make on the wildcard for me to answer that question. On the face of it, without knowing the context, I'd say wildcard. I benched Dubravka, but I've Pope. Might regret it as well tomorrow. Yeah. I don't think it'll be that high scoring, personally, between Bournemouth Newcastle. Yeah, my prediction is basically a 1-1 or 1-0 Bournemouth. I don't think Newcastle keep a clean sheet, and I don't believe Eddie Howe has ever beaten Bournemouth as a manager. Would you do Williams to Gabriel today? Will be priced out if Williams falls tonight. Long term, that is the best move. My issue with that is you might have bigger moves to make. Like if you've got Palmer, you know, he could be a sell in game week 6, depending on his fitness. There's also Erling Haaland, who should be a priority if you don't have him. But looking at this situation in isolation, I'd buy Gabriel. Fast Air says, after next week, Wood and Gakpo to Gyökeres and Caicedo. Yes. And to be fair, you might even say it's the right thing to do now. Chris Wood is a bit of a doubt to start the next game. Mario Rodriguez says, in the end, I went for Sanchez because I have Wood and Anderson and no Man United attackers. Seems logical, but didn't work. It is logical. Sometimes FPL doesn't operate on logic, but luck and some massive swings. So I don't really blame you there. It wasn't a bad decision, just a terrible outcome. And yeah, for a 7-point swing to happen with your goalkeeper, something went horribly wrong, and it did with Robert Sanchez. I think I'm going to play 5 defenders in Game Week 6. I'd like to see which defenders you got. Maybe a City one, Gabriel, Van Dijk. I'm not convinced about 5 defenders in Game Week 6, to be honest. So yeah, there's a VAR check for the, or there was, for the 4-1. Yeah, it was disallowed. So Meneses' goal was disallowed. It's worth mentioning that. Dango Ouattara and Rico Henry have been subbed on for Igor Thiago and Lewis Potter, respectively. So yeah, this was the game I backed for a 3-2. So I don't always get it horribly wrong. Sometimes I get things right. Not with my FPL team, though, so far this season. Anderson is 1 defensive action away from DEFCON. Yeah, he'll probably get that. That's what I like about Anderson, but you won't get many clean sheets from him. Foden costs 8.2 million. That's what makes him very appealing, actually. So if you go back to my provisional wildcard squad, which will be talked about in that video. Sorry, this is not my, this is my provisional team, you know, transfer plans and team selection. So yeah, Phil Foden does, oh sorry, 8 million. What am I saying, 8.2? Yeah, he's 8 million. So that's why he could be in over Bruno Fernandes, just from a budget perspective. Because if I wanted to buy Bruno Fernandes for Foden, and ideally I'd have both, by the way, so I'd sell Gakpo for Fernandes, but I would need an extra million or so, 1.3 to be exact here. And in the case of Foden, it'd be 1 million. What do you do there? I would really recommend Gabriel. Maybe you do Donnarumma to Petrovic, or, I don't know, a 4.5 million goalkeeper. I'll be honest though, I'm not a big fan of those options. Petrovic is the best of a bad bunch. Yeah. It's not looking particularly great. Maybe Gyökeres downgraded to a cheaper striker like Mateta. That could be an option for you. But I do like Gyökeres long-term, and double Arsenal defence in preparation for their fixture swing looks really enticing. So yeah, this will be talked about in my wildcard video, but for now, I'm going to go for Cody Gakpo just about and have that Liverpool attacker. And yeah, that's one of the downsides of this wildcard team. There are no Liverpool players except for Gakpo. That is a bit of a concern. But I do prefer Gabriel over Van Dijk long-term. Senesi and Van der Ven obviously offer better value. And yeah, Lacroix is still decent in my opinion. So yeah, it's a good foundation for the wildcard, but there could be room for improvement. And if you want more attacking potential, you can start Cody Gakpo over Moises Caicedo. The expected points does drop, but we'll talk about this in the wildcard podcast. But I want to see your thoughts now, off the cuff. Do you prefer buying Bruno Fernandes and Haaland for Watkins and Salah for a -4 hit, or getting one of Foden or Caicedo, keeping Watkins and selling Chris Wood instead to Erling Haaland? And obviously Salah makes way in this scenario too. So in the first situation, I've got 0.4 in the bank. In the second one, I've got 0.2. FPL.team prefer the Bruno Fernandes route, but Foden looks really enticing, and having a triple up in City's attack is a massive differential against Burnley. Maybe it's not worth it based on their recent performances, but I think City will win quite comfortably at the Etihad. Foden and Haaland, Rangers versus Burnley. Okay, so that's an opinion shared a couple of minutes ago. I'm guessing you're in the Man City camp here. Foden replacing Gakpo and Joao Pedro replacing Ekitike. Yeah, looks good long term. Foden will always be a concern with the minutes, but so will Gakpo with those early substitutions recently. Yeah, no Salah. He is still a good option, but he's not worth 14.5 million. So the website I use for the price changes is livefpl.net. I also use it to show you my updated rank, and it probably has gone down a little bit during this Fulham-Brentford game. But the website you see now is fpl.team, where you can visualize future game weeks as well. Munoz, Richards, Lacroix for Gay or not. Keep what you have. It's not worth swapping one for the other. 39 points, Haaland, Ivanos and Trafford to play. Yeah, good position to be in overall. No Semenyo could be costly. And hopefully Watkins does something tomorrow. But you've got Haaland. You'll get a green arrow, I think, depending on your rank. Anderson, only 1 point. Need him to score. He'll probably get Defcon, though, and give you 3 points unless Brentford score a second. In that situation, yeah, it's not looking good for you. But Defcon is better than nothing, right? Already in your wildcard squad. Also, you can change Gakpo or Foden to Eze in wildcard 8. I think Gyökeres is enough for Arsenal coverage. I like Eze as a player, but I wouldn't recommend him over Foden and these other options. Even Gakpo would be better, in my opinion. And you want that Liverpool coverage, in my opinion, in that attacking line. So that's the kind of logic and explanation behind the Gakpo pick. He's not the best on paper right now, but certainly better than Wirtz, which isn't saying much. Another possibility on the wildcard, by the way, is going to Ekitike instead of Gyökeres, but you've got Isak knocking on the door. I wouldn't recommend that. I really wouldn't. Haaland in place of Salah game week 6 and Gyökeres in 7 was the plan, but I have issues now that might need prioritising. Dango and Johnson, deal with them first or bite the bullet and deal with them later. I'd probably wildcard. Oh, actually, you didn't even say wildcard, but I'd deal with them first. Yeah. I think Haaland in place of Salah, it just looks too good to turn down, though. And then Gyökeres in 7. Yeah, Dango and Johnson would be less pressing matters, but maybe add a -4 hit in there and buy Semenyo ideally, if you can, but otherwise go for a Caicedo. And these sorts of options you see on screen in Die could also be brilliant for you long term. So I'd focus on your original plan, get Haaland in and Gyökeres, but also take a hit along the way and buy one of those midfielders or wildcard if needed. It depends on your sort of 15-man squad and any other issues you may have. I'm going to put a poll out, a very early one, to see your thoughts and see the best course of action for my FPL team. So let's go to this wildcard squad here. And let's also do the other avenues. So TC stands for triple captain. I'm going to put it in here as well. So that's going to be quite simple. So triple captain, Haaland. So yeah, let's do Salah and Watkins. Okay, I need to find that. Okay. So I'm going to put a poll out here and see what you lot think. But yeah, in my opinion, and I saw someone say in the live chat, the team isn't terrible, but it's just been really poor this week. And yeah, Robert Sanchez, let's not talk about him too much. He is the villain who is causing a red arrow right now. I would have been on a green by starting Dubravka, which says a lot about this game week. So let's get this poll underway. A lot of interesting ideas already in this reaction stream. And that is the point of these, to give our initial thoughts, and this could definitely evolve over the week. But yeah, already I built a decent wildcard squad. It's worth noting that Josh King was subbed off around 67 minutes for Kevin, and Collins just got booked for Brentford 5 minutes ago. So yeah, if you've got Iwobi, congratulations. Even Manice, an assist is better than nothing. Harry Wilson, Damsgaard, all looking good, but the rest not too great from these Fulham and Brentford players. Let me bring up these options. So Salah and Watkins to Haaland. And let's put in Bruno Fernandes. Triple captain, Haaland. Let's put Bruno, since I've got a stupid character limit. And then Salah and Chris Wood to Foden and triple captain Haaland. And it's worth mentioning it is a -4. -4. Let's see if I can do that. No, character limit, absolute bomberclot, and then wildcard. So let me just show you the options once more, and then I'm going to put the poll out. So this is one of the options on in the poll. So this is the wild card, and it would be something like Donnarumma, Dubravka. It could even be Darlow there. A defensive line of Van der Ven, Senesi, Gabriel, with Lacroix and a 4 million backup. Gakpo, Foden, Semenyo, and Dai, Gyökeres, Haaland, Joao Pedro, and Caicedo is a brilliant 8th option here, and he could start in virtually any game week and give you points. This is one of the other scenarios where I keep Chris Wood and sell Watkins for Erling Haaland, and I can buy Bruno Fernandes for Mohamed Salah. It would be for a -4 hit, and by doing so, I triple captain Erling Haaland. And the other option is to do the same thing, use that booster on the Norwegian robot, but I would buy Phil Foden instead of Fernandes, and I would keep Ollie Watkins and sell Chris Wood instead. So I'm going to put the poll out. You've seen the options. 2 of them are for a -4 hit and a triple captain. The other is a wild card. And yeah, FPL.team have a clear preference here. And let's see why I can't start the poll. Is that because of the 4th option? Let's get rid of that. I think I'm over the character limit for 1. Yeah, I am. So, yeah. So first 2 options equals -4 hit. And then let's do TC. Yeah, I think that's the best way to make things clear in the poll. So be sure to cast your vote, like this stream, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that good stuff. Let's see the messages. Welcome, Paredes. Good to see you. What have I missed? Sanchez got sent off, and that has turned a green arrow into a red for me, but the less said about that, the better. Watkins de Capitán, ojalá salve este horrible fecha. Ojalá que sí, pero te digo la verdad, Agustín, no tengo ninguna confianza en Oli Watkins. Yo puse 1-0 para Aston Villa. Ojalá que sea Watkins que haga el gol y tenga 9 puntos, pero si mi confianza lo puede esta semana, se fue abajo. Yeah, Kelleher, but he was saved by VAR. Brentford must be fighting in the relegation zone. I agree, but I'm even more concerned about Wolves, and I've said that from the beginning. Neil Cheeseman, yeah, I think so, yeah. I buy Stack as I see he is good and benched him instead of Grealish, but why did Maresca take off Neto? Wait, you benched Stack over Grealish? I mean, yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I actually like Stack from what I saw in pre-season. I talked about this in that sort of content before Game Week 1 began, but he was never someone I recommended in FPL. I definitely didn't expect that massive return today. And Grealish looked lively, but yeah, against Liverpool away, even I was reluctant to start in Dye. I was a bit fortunate to get 6 points in the end, but in Dye is a quality FPL asset in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maresca has made some questionable decisions at times with subs. Neto was poor against Bayern, but much better today, and he's always a threat, especially against a team like United. Bruno Elite, he is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, but yeah, I'm always a bit skeptical when United fans after one good game say, oh, he's better than De Bruyne. Let's calm down. I know you didn't say that, but I've seen others who are culpable of that sort of thing. Looking at Palace's fixtures, and I think we could be without the defence for a few games. Yeah, you don't need to, by the way. Lacroix could easily be a cheaper defender, but I still like his DEFCON potential. So in this poll, the wildcard option is still winning. So a lot of people are really convinced about the wildcard. So just to make it clear, this is the wildcard squad, which I've built just now, and it's still subject to change. You'll see it in my upcoming podcasts. This would be a -4 hit, and I triple captain Erling Haaland. Remember, Robert Sanchez is available for Game Week 6, so he can play against Brighton. Chris Wood is a bit of a concern to start there. So Bruno Fernandes and Haaland for a -4 hit, triple captain, the Norwegian. And here it's buying Foden, keeping Ollie Watkins and selling Chris Wood. But it's a very balanced poll to be fair, but the wild card is the most popular, and I'm not too surprised by that overall. Anderson smashed DEFCON already. Yeah, no surprises there. Still a goal conceded. It's going to be 3 points from him. I wish I got that from my defenders. Just saying that. Sí, yo también latino dialects. Necesitamos mucha suerte con Watkins y con Mañana. Got Watkins captain, not confident he will deliver. Yeah, people in Spanish now were just saying that, yeah, one of them, I think it was Agustin, he captained Watkins, so I really hope it goes well for us. Your thoughts about Jadon Anthony on the wildcard? Yeah, he's been pretty good. He's definitely the best Burnley option right now, alongside Dubravka. The goal today should have been cleared by Sinchenko. I know the balance and stuff, it's not an easy clearance, but he should have done better. Jadon Anthony, though, 3 goals, 1 assist in the Prem so far. Really good return. In pre-season, when I was talking about the best newly promoted assets, I marked Jadon Anthony as one of the best ones based on what he did in the Championship last season. Going Anderson. Go on, Anderson, get a goal. Yeah, you're asking for a bit too much there, but never say never. Andre 6000 says, is it worth selling Gabriel for Timber to fit in Fernandes on a wild card? Well, Ben White should return soon, but I think Timber's quite safe at the moment and he should start most games for Arsenal. So I'd probably say yes, but Gabriel will get DEFCON more often. Don't fall for it, Dylan. They don't want you to triple captain. I'll be honest, Ahmed, it's just like a good idea to have or to see what people think, but my current preference is to take the hit and triple captain and wildcard later. Brentford manager a criminal for not starting Dango. He has done this before against Chelsea last week. I thought he'd bring Dango back into the side. That was the only incorrect prediction I had with Brentford. I think I got 10 out of 11 correct with them and Fulham, but yeah, I think Dango definitely offers them something different. He is frustrating, but certainly one of their bigger threats alongside Sharda. Sometimes it's best to hide your head in the sand, yes, but even when I have a terrible week, I'm always here answering your questions and explaining my decisions, which sometimes are good, sometimes they're not. No, I wouldn't sell Sanchez right now. Remember, he is available for Game Week 6. He might not start against Brighton, I do admit that, but yeah, it depends on the context. If you're wildcarding, you could definitely change him to Donnarumma, for example, or go to a cheaper option, but I would try to save your goalkeeper transfers and focus elsewhere. Yeah, Palmer was subbed off with an injury. It was the same groin problem as before, which he felt against Bayern, and it also caused him to miss the West Ham game, amongst others. Peter Tisdale says, all apart from Bradley. Yes, you are correct about that. Thank you for providing the updates and obviously pointing that out about the DEFCON with Liverpool defenders earlier. I believe it was you anyway, but thank you. I Hate Marmite says, I have Salah and Haaland. Should I sell Salah to Bruno? Not really, unless you could upgrade multiple positions, like get Gyökeres up front for Chris Wood and get Gabriel defensively. I'd probably keep Salah for now. You'll be one of very few managers in the FPL space with both Salah and Haaland. Is this the end of Palmer, surely? Not necessarily. I think he's a big doubt for Game Week 6 against Brighton, which is a shame. He scored 4 goals against them last season at the Bridge. I don't think it's the end of Palmer. He could still start. It just doesn't look good right now. I'd keep him, wait for more information, but on the wild card, I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes and Foden instead. Would you do Wood or Mateta out for Haaland? Long-term, Mateta's better, and he could score against Liverpool like he did in the Shield final, the Community Shield final, that is. Chris Wood, if he starts against Sunderland, looks decent, but the minutes are a big concern here. My current plan with Chris Wood, if I keep him for this week, is to sell in Game Week 7, and ideally it'd be to Gyökeres. Advice, please. I made my only transfer and now I have another one. Yeah, I'm not sure what the context is here. So if you made a transfer before the Game Week 5 deadline, which was before 11 AM in the UK, then yeah, obviously that played a part for this weekend's games. But yeah, if you made one transfer going into Game Week 6 and you've still got another one, I honestly don't know what to tell you because I don't know who you have or don't have. One idea, obviously, that a lot of people will do anyway is to sell Salah and then go for Erling Haaland as part of a -4 here. I'm looking to do the same myself. As much as I like Salah, I don't think he's worth 14.5 right now. I like Gravenberch a lot as a player. I just don't think FPL-wise he'll be as consistent as Caicedo, who is my preference at 5.6. To cover Liverpool and their attack, I'd go for Gakpo right now. Okay, so if no wildcard, in order to play triple captain, I can do Salah to Foden and Watkins to Haaland. So very similar to my plans there, JM, which I showed you using FPL.team. Playing the chip, then maybe wildcard for Arsenal assets in 7. Yeah, or Game Week 8. West Ham have been a bogey team for Arsenal recently, but the way they're defending set pieces, surely the Gunners can take advantage, and Gabriel can be one main beneficiary from it. But yeah, that's a good strategy. I don't know your team, but on paper, that looks very solid. Team is not too bad if Sanchez is not an issue. That's what I mean. For some people, Game Week 6 could still be another week where you don't need to wildcard, but then again, I thought I'd do well this weekend. Look at the absolute calamity it has been. Why do Chelsea keep pushing Palmer to play and can't just wait until he's 100%? Well, it looks like Palmer, was insistent on playing. It's a big match against United. They just lost to Bayern. Palmer's been in good form, scoring against Brentford. That might be a little bit harsh because let's not forget he came on as a sub against Brentford, looked incredible, by the way. He was really sharp and back on it. He was Chelsea's best player against Bayern Munich. Yeah, ultimately, you've got to be careful with these players. I think Arsenal also have been culpable of this, rushing Saka back, and maybe this time they won't. There are some murmurings he'll be back tomorrow against Man City, but if he's not fit to start, he won't be risked. But yeah, ultimately, Chelsea, they've got some quality players, like I mentioned before. Palmer's their best one overall, and without him, they definitely look much weaker, and their kind of replacements for him are much worse. They've got a good starting 11, but their bench looks not that good, considering all the money spent, and their defensive line is still under par, or subpar compared to City, Arsenal and Liverpool. Is it mental to have 3 Spurs players on the wild card? I wouldn't recommend that personally. I think 1 or 2 is fine, so Van der Ven would be the preference right now. One of Xavi Simons or Kudus in the midfield, but I prefer Ndai at a similar price. You've also got Caicedo, Bruno Fernandes, Foden. Semenyo is the absolute standout. So my preference is 1, maybe 2 at a push. I think 3 is overkill, but that's just my opinion. David says, hi Dylan, I have enough for a team that has either Vicario, Harvey Elliott and Joao Pedro, or Raya, Caicedo, Evanilson. I like Joao Pedro a lot, but as an overall trio, my recommendation is Raya, Caicedo and Evanilson. I'd try to find a way to bring in Joao Pedro in for Evanilson by downgrading somebody else. That would be my advice, but yeah, the second trio looks better. Go Timber or Gabriel on a wild card. If money is no issue, I'd go for Gabriel. I think I don't want to, make big assumptions, even though I'm going to do that right now. Are you Dutch? Maybe that could influence your Jurrien Timber sort of, agenda. You want to push that PR and go for Jurrien Timber. He's cheaper as well. I just think Gabriel is more likely to score goals, despite the fact that Timber has gotten more so far this season. And in terms of DEFCON, Gabriel will score that more consistently than Jurrien Timber. Harry says, hi Dylan, really want a wildcard in 6, had a bad start, but team looks okay for the next week or 2. Would you hold for a wildcard 8, or what are the benefits of activating now? Well, the benefits of activating now is that you can triple up on City against Burnley. You can also get early on Arsenal assets as well, and double or triple up there with Gabriel and Gyökeres. And you can also sort out multiple issues in your team. For those that have Sanchez, he is going to be available against Brighton. Will he start? That's a different story. You can also fix multiple other problems in your squad and make upgrades. But yeah, I think that is the kind of key argument for Gameweek 6 wildcard. Now, on the other hand, you can't triple captain Haaland against Burnley. You also will have a similar sort of setup in Gameweek 7 or 8 and could also change a few things here or there. And we do have an international break, by the way, after Gameweek 7. And I think Gameweek 8 could be a very nice time to wildcard, actually. Then you've got that sort of popular time to do it in Gameweek 13, which is still a possibility for people. But then you've got AFCON transfers in Gameweek 16, so everyone gets 5 available transfers. So I think the Gameweek 13 wildcard could actually be a little bit weaker on paper, or you don't take full advantage of it, in my opinion. I think the Gameweek 8 wildcard looks very enticing the more I think about it, but ultimately there are pros and cons for both strategies. It's quite similar in terms of the time frame, but you've got the international break as well, which could complicate things for you if you wildcard now. And you've also got one more match day in the Champions League. You've got Carabao Cup action in midweek, so a lot could change here. But yeah, Gameweek 8 is my preference at the moment, and triple captain Haaland now. Would you swap Salah for Haaland? Yeah, that is my current plan. I talked about this in my team selection. It's very likely that I'll do it. Marius H says, hi Dylan, sell Palmer and finally get Haaland. Wait for updates on Palmer, but my advice is to do it right now, yes. As things stand, I would go to Haaland and sell Palmer, but wait for more information. Let's not forget that Palmer scored 4 goals against Brighton last season at the same stadium. Rob says 41 so far, looks really good. With Raya, Senesi, Semenyo, Elliott and Gyökeres to play. Yeah, bench boost might be disappointing, but at least you've got that decent score under your belt, probably a green arrow, and a lot of players left tomorrow. You've got Semenyo as well. Gyökeres is quite underrated. No Haaland, but good players overall. I like that. Austin says Onana getting man of the match in his first loan game and then getting an assist in the next game is a huge statement from him. I actually wasn't aware of the assist. Fair play. No Paredes. my current plan is to take a -4 hit. It really comes down to, do I sell Watkins or Chris Wood? And by selling Watkins, I can buy Bruno Fernandes, who I prefer over Foden long term. But for Game Week 6 specifically, I really like Foden against Burnley, to be fair. So that's what I lean towards at the moment. In terms of the poll, people are voting for the wildcard right now, 38%. In second, it's the Bruno route, 33%, triple captain Haaland. In last is the Foden route and selling Chris Wood in the process. Well, I don't want to give too much away, I don't want to, have people track me down and stuff, but I do have dual nationality. So you can see the flag, that speaks for itself, Argentina. And then, yeah, you can probably tell by my accent, my other country. Not to be mysterious, I'm just, let's be safe. Emma O'Connell says, what do you think? Saliba for Williams, cannot afford Gabriel as I'm getting Semenyo. Yeah, I like Saliba. He should be back tomorrow. Mosquera's been brilliant for Arsenal, but Saliba is one of the best defenders in world football, and if he's fit, you start him, right? My favourite Arsenal defender is Gabriel, but one thing we saw from the first few gimmicks of the season is that Saliba could be better for DEFCON than Gabriel, which is very appealing. And for bonus points, without goals being considered and stuff, in terms of baseline bonus, I think Saliba might be a little bit better than Gabriel too. So yeah, not too shabby. And if that means you can get Semenyo, I think it's worth it. Mina says, hey Dylan, do you think selling Bruno Fernandes to make room for Haaland and Semenyo in Game Week 6 is a good move, or take a hit to keep Bruno? That's a great question. I'm just wondering, how would that work in terms of taking a hit, keeping Bruno to get Semenyo and Haaland? How would that work? Based on the answer to that question, I'd lean towards that because I do like Bruno long term. But that's a very good one, actually. Eddie says, hi Dylan, 0.5 in the bank, 1 free, 1 Erling Haaland. What wildcard team would you do? That's already been covered, mate. So if you look at this team now on screen, and remember, this is after the Saturday games, there's still Sunday, a few changes could be made, and also more research will be done, and I'll be tinkering with this. But in preparation for that wildcard podcast in a couple of days' time, I would go for something like this, using the wildcard chip. You can also go for Bruno Fernandes. Ideally, it would be him for Gakpo, but there's also no Liverpool players if I get rid of the Dutchman. So, yeah, there are a few 50-50 calls to make, ideally, or on paper on the wildcard. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes looks really good. Wildcard, but keep Bruno. I don't know the full context of that situation, mate. Akiko says, don't wildcard. I don't think I will. Probably Game Week 7 or 8 looks more likely, and I think Game Week 8 is the one. Yeah, Palmer was subbed off due to an injury. I covered that earlier. Maresca said he wasn't feeling 100% before today, but he made a big effort to obviously start for Chelsea. He couldn't continue, and he was subbed off. There is still a chance he's available against Brighton, but he might not be risked and not start that game, which is a big shame, to be honest. I think he would have been poised for a good return there. A big Game Week 7 swing incoming. When will you wildcard? Probably an 8. I can't guarantee it specifically. Let's say, for example, I get a few injuries during midweek, then I'll just push the button and wildcard, but in an ideal world, I'll triple captain Haaland and wildcard in a couple of weeks' time. I've been tinkering with my side. I can get Salah, Haaland, and Palmer. Looks great, but remember, Palmer is an injury doubt going into Game Week 6 now, so don't do it just yet. Rangers are in die in Game Week 6 if you had to pick only one. I think it's still in die for me. West Ham have been terrible, and in die is more consistent than Rangers, so I know he's got the better option, or sorry, the better fixture on paper. I'd lean towards Ndai. UCL Vanity wasn't great for me. I got over 80 points, but compare that to 121 last season in Matchday 1, it's a clear drop-off. There were a few 50-50 calls that went the other way, and yeah, a bit of frustration there. Not as bad as FPL, but yeah, UCL Fantasy is one I typically do really well in, and I want to get back on track very soon. Stick says push wildcard now. No, I'm not going to wildcard now. It's a possibility that by the end of Game Week 6 I activate the button, but I think my preference is to triple captain Erling Haaland. Ryan says 4 points, you mean? In these situations, yeah, in the poll, a -4 means a -4 hit, yeah. Eddie says, hi Dylan, who to get on wildcard? So yeah, you can see some options there. Bruno Fernandes is the other one to consider, and I talked about that a few days ago. He was on the thumbnail too, so it's not reactionary after that goal against Chelsea. Andre says, better wildcard option, Gabriel and Foden or Timber and Fernandes? That's really close. I like both of them. Wow. for what it's worth, and this is not going to help you at all, I prefer Gabriel over Timber, but long term I prefer Fernandes over Foden. As a duo, I'm going to say Timber and Fernandes, just about. Eddie says, I bench boosted today on 46 points, got 9 from the bench so far. Gabriel, not too shabby. If Gabriel can get a clean sheet, that would be a very good bench boost, considering it's a single game week. Or at least it'll be a decent one. So yeah, 46 points, by the way, is a very good score. I have free transfers. Should I use these or activate the free hit? I don't know your team, but I'll probably say use the free transfers. That's pretty good. I wish I had free transfers. I've only got one. Jack Genders says, morning Dylan, from New Zealand. 27 points at the halfway mark. Would have been slightly better if Sanchez hadn't got his red. Same here, mate. You would have been on 30 plus. I mean, if you had the Dubravka on your bench, then yeah, it would have been 34. In my case, I would have been on 29. So just a massive swing against us. I would have been on a green arrow, believe it or not. But yeah, after tomorrow, no Erling Haaland. It's going to be a red arrow for me. Hopefully it isn't for you. Can you read out some of the big players to rise tonight again, please? There aren't many, JM. There aren't many. So if I go back to it, and by the way, this is the update on Cole Palmer by Maresca. So just to reiterate, Cole this morning did a test to play this game. He was not 100%. It was a fantastic effort for the club, for his teammates, for the team. Unfortunately, he was not 100%. In terms of the price changes, let's refresh this and see the latest information. Waldemar, Jurriën Timber, Xavi Simons could go up in price. That's pretty much it. When it comes to price falls, these are the possible ones on screen. So yeah, there you go. So I'm about to catch up here, and I'll read out a few last comments. It has been a blast. Obviously, I did a 3-hour deadline stream earlier. But yeah, I do appreciate all the super chats, the members, the patrons, and also to the gifted memberships by Ahmed and Ahmad. Thank you very much. You're massively appreciated. And we also hit a big goal today, 36,000 subscribers, and the next one will be 37k. Only a few days ago, we hit 35,000, so the growth has been incredible recently. Let's push towards 40k as the next big objective and build all our social media platforms. Join my Discord server, the FPL League, check out my Spotify, the Patreon, the channel memberships, everything there. There's also my Blue Sky, Instagram, and Twitter/X for all the updates on UCL Fantasy and FPL. Austin says, I've got Sanchez, Dubravka, Van der Ven, and Van Dijk, Munoz, Tarkovsky, Renildo Mandava, Salah, Gakpo. But yeah, my chat has frozen. I'm probably going to have to refresh this. Semenyo, Anderson, Rangers, Watkins, Pedro, Mateta, free hit in 6, wildcard in 8 or 13, triple captain in either 13, 15, 16. That's a good strategy. Not everyone has to do the same thing as me. My recommendation for a lot of people is the triple captain Haaland now, wildcard in 8. But what you're suggesting could also work fairly well. In terms of the free hit, I think an underrated week could be 11 actually, but it all depends on your situation. And I would highly recommend using a website like FPL.team, visualize future game weeks, play around with free hit squads, and look at the fixtures. I think game week 11 could be quite decent, but that might need to be reassessed going into a couple of months' time. Yeah, Jack says should have played Burnley assets. Who would have thought though, right? I mean, Burnley to get a result against Forest wasn't out of the question. I still went for a Forest win though, and a 7-point swing from Sanchez to Dubravka is still harsh, no matter how you look at it, in my opinion. Thoughts about Palmer to Haaland? Like I said before, I would do it, but with Palmer, there is still a chance he starts against Brighton, and he scored 4 goals against them last season at the Bridge. But as things stand, I don't think he starts in Game Week 6, and Erling Haaland is the best triple captaincy opportunity so far this season, so I would go for it. No worries for it, Grandpa. Sorry, Dylan, let me explain better. I only had 1 transfer after the deadline. I used it, but now it says I have another one. I believe there's a transfer glitch. Yeah, I saw this. If it's on the app, ignore it. Use the website. I don't think I've ever seen any glitches like that on the website. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, if it says that on the app, ignore it. Go to the website and make sure. You don't want to be in a situation where, you know, it says, oh, I've got an extra free transfer, let me take advantage. And then it says a -4 hit by the end of the game week. So that's a great question. I haven't seen that before in my live streams, but on Twitter, I did see a few people report this issue. So my advice is to ignore the app on this occasion, go to the website and double check that way. Thank you very much for the question. And you did explain it very well. Triple captain, Haaland or Foden? Haaland. Yeah, Haaland. Should I activate my wildcard now to prevent price changes or wait? If you're convinced that this is the week to wildcard and you don't want to triple captain Haaland or you prefer wildcarding, I would use it now. Which Forest will you start in Game Week 6? Ndoye or Elliot Anderson? Ndoye has the highest ceiling, but after a bright start for Nuno Espirito Santo, I'm just not that convinced about these assets now, like Chris Wood and Ndoye under Ange Postecoglou, and we could see a rotation as well, actually. Yeah, I agree, JM. If you are definitely activating the wildcard, then sooner the better to catch price rises. Yes, and for those that are unaware, when you bring in a player, they need to go up in price by 0.2 million, so you gain 0.1 million in terms of selling value. That's the way you can build up your squad value, and then that could be used for your ideal picks on a wildcard. So let me go back to my FPL challenge team because I want to go on something positive, and FPL is definitely not that right now. Let's also refresh this page. Okay, Mateta's bonus point hasn't been added yet, but once it does, I'll go to 41. Latino says, Dylan, I may have to ask you for a decision. No worries. Let's have a little water break as I prepare for this decision. I only have 6.7 million for an attacker in the bank. Richarlison or Igor Thiago, who do you prefer? Out of the two, it would be Richarlison, but Igor Thiago is more nailed on in the grand scheme of things. He could also be on penalties. With Tottenham Hotspur, they can play Colomwani up front. They can also do a few different things there. Yeah, Richarlison won't start every game, but as a short-term punt, I would go for the Brazilian Pigeon. You know, that nice little celebration he does. By the way, Seagulls 2, Pigeon 1, and Tottenham Hotspur 2, so fair play. Doug says, after my planned transfers, my bench next week will be Dubravka, Gay, Mateta, and Livramento. I wouldn't bench boost that. You've got Livramento facing Arsenal at home, and yes, you know, Newcastle have a good record against the Gunners recently at St James's Park. Dubravka away to Man City, you're basically praying for save points, and that's it, because I think City will score a few goals. Gay at home to Liverpool could score DEFCON. There's a bit of a story there, of course, nearly joining them, but I think he'll ultimately give you 2 to 4 points. Mateta's good. I like him against Liverpool. The rest, though, not convinced. I would save that bench boost for another day. Thank you to Paredes as well. What's with the 5 free transfers we're getting in Game Week 16? How should we prepare for it? That's probably worth going to my chip strategy slides, which I showed you in my deadline stream earlier. So, of course, as everyone knows, we all have extra chips this season. So one for the first half of the campaign and one for the second, for the bench boost, wildcard, triple captain, and free hit. This is the slide. Ignore Mbeumo in the Brentford shirt. This was by FPL during the summer. So all managers will be topped up to the maximum possible transfers of 5 in Game Week 16 ahead of AFCON, regardless of how many you had before. So a very good tip, actually. And I know using transfers isn't always the best thing to do in FPL. Sometimes doing nothing is actually the optimum thing. But I think using up all your transfers and then having 5 in 16 is the way you want to go about it. Because as it says here, it doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if you take in multiple hits. Basically, everyone gets 5 free transfers in Game Week 16. So the best way to go about it is to use all of them up, and that way you can restructure your team, maybe bench boost around this stage, and a wildcard could also be deployed around Game Week 13. But at this moment in time, I'm leaning towards a Game Week 8 wildcard, and this is all covered in these slides. Ignore anything that says Game Week 4 when it comes to triple captaining Salah as a possibility against Burnley, because obviously that has gone by. These slides were made a couple of weeks ago, but there are still a lot of relevant points here with a breakdown of every single chip, and also potential gimmicks to use the wild card, free hit, bench boost, and triple captain. At this moment in time, what I'm looking to do is triple captain Haaland in 6, wild card in 8, maybe free hit in a gimmick like 11. That's only one possibility. I'm quite open-minded when it comes to that chip. A lot depends on suspensions, injuries, and dips in form. And the bench boost could be used in Game Week 16, where you get 5 free transfers. You can sell Salah by that stage and all these African players who are going to feature in AFCON, and you can really bolster your squad that way. And obviously an alternative way of playing it is the wildcard in 13, maybe bench boost in 14 or 15. Then using 5 free transfers in 16, you can take money off your bench and reinvest it into your starting 11 and buy Erling Haaland that way, for example. So there are different ways of approaching the first half of the season. I can't say the same, though, for the second half, because it's going to be very popular to wildcard around Game Week 32, bench boost in double Game Week 33, free hit in blank Game Week 34, and triple captain in double Game Week 36. Ultimately, we don't know exactly what doubles and blanks we're going to get, right, at this stage in time. But it looks very likely that Game Week 33 and 36 will be double Game Weeks, as you saw in a previous slide. And blank Game Week 34 is going to be a blank, of course, and that's where you can free hit. And yeah, wildcarding in 35 is another alternative strategy for the second half, but ultimately our focus is on the first half of the season because we have 2 chips, of course, this season. And apart from Game Week 6 on Erling Haaland, you could use it in 13 or 15. The wildcard in 8 or 13 is my preference. With the bench boost, this could be at any stage, to be honest. Some people might have a good bench boost now, but yeah, I'd probably say Game Week 16, 17, 18, 19 could all be good. Even just before that, if you wildcard in 13, maybe an immediate bench boost afterwards in 14 or 15 as well. And with the free hit, Game Week 11 is my current preference. I'm going to reassess this, of course, and it might be a different one in the end. Game Week 6 could also be an alternative week for you, and it definitely works for some people there. So I'll go back to this at some stage. I do cover a lot of this in my chip strategy guide, which I published before the season even started. Let's now go back to my FPL team. And unfortunately, I'm going back down to reality from 41 points in FPL challenge to 22. That is disgusting. I have to say that. So I'm going to end this poll. Once it hits 200 votes, I'll end it. But the wildcard is leading. And remember, that's for my situation specifically. I'll be honest, the -4 hit and triple captaining Haaland is what I'm looking at. So either Bruno Fernandes or Foden will come in, and one of Watkins or Chris Wood will be sold for Erling Haaland. That is my current plan. It will be finalised and discussed in my team selection and in the next deadline stream. Same here, D. Rowdy. I hope Semenyo comes in clutch. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate that as well. And hopefully you have a much better week in 5 and 6 than what we're currently seeing right now. Hi, Dylan. If you hit the wildcard button tonight, can you cancel it? So if you click the button, you can cancel it technically. So as you saw in the slides, I say that the wildcard and free hit are irreversible. What that means is if you click the button, you make the transfers and confirm it, that locks in your free hit or wildcard. So after that, you can't reverse it. But if you only click the button and don't confirm the transfers, then yeah, you can still technically cancel it, actually. Thank you, Tim. Nice with some Saturday content to still the nerves. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Some people have described this as FPL therapy. Got yourself a new subscriber. Cheers. Thank you very much, Tim. Very kind words, and hopefully you tune in for the upcoming deadline and reaction streams for FPL and UCL Fantasy. Thank you very much. Hello, Dylan. How many points you got? Yeah, you can see it on screen, 22. Let's ignore that. If we have free transfers before Game Week 15, no. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how many transfers you got. Everyone gets 5 in 16. You can't stockpile and have 10 if you had 5 going into Game Week 16 already. That isn't possible. Maria says, DEFCON actually worth for the back 5. I'm still not convinced though. I don't think Game Week 6, just like for Game Week 5, I said this before the deadline passed, I don't think it's a week to have a 5 at the back formation. Thank you, JM. They can all be on the wild card. Yeah, ideally, well, I think you're referring to other players, but yeah, I'd really like to have Bruno Fernandes and Foden in the same squad. I'll try to make that possible. No wildcard tonight, and put players in who will rise like Xavi Simons and Timber and Gabriel. Yeah, Timber could rise tonight, not Gabriel. I did cover that earlier. And ultimately, they're not always going to be accurate, the price prediction sites, but I find livefpl.net to be the best of the lot when it comes to price predictions. Should I buy Semenyo right now in case his price rises? He only went up in price like 2 days ago, and in the last week, he's gone up by 0.3. As good as Semenyo is, I don't think he'll rise tonight, so just don't do it yet. Wait for tomorrow's matches at least, and then you can pull the trigger. Would you change out Salah and Watkins to get Haaland and Foden or Gakpo? Yes, I would. Salah and Watkins could still come good, and obviously Salah's been okay, but not really worth the 14-point family and price tag. I'd go for Haaland and Foden right now, and if possible, I'd stretch to Bruno Fernandes. David says Vicario, Harvey Elliott and Joao Pedro. Yeah, this was covered earlier, mate. I would go for Raya, Caicedo and Evanussen, but I'm not sure if my live chat bugged out. because it says I haven't read it out, but I have. Garni14 says Salah, Wood to Haaland and Gakpo. Yeah, you could go for Ndai. My favourite is Semenyo. If you don't have him, don't overcomplicate it. Another option is Caicedo, who is brilliant in FPL now. JM says, only thing for me is I have the exact money to go Salah to Foden, then Watkins to Haaland, so I should lock that in. Well, Haaland went up in price a few days ago to 14.2. Watkins also went down fairly recently. I'd keep it today and wait for tomorrow's matches, then you could pull the trigger. You should be safe for tonight, but if you really want to do it, I don't blame you. We do have midweek games where I don't think many of these players will start. I think City and Liverpool will rotate, for example. I just realised I haven't made a transfer this season. 1.1 million rank, not bad. That's much better than what I'm doing. Wildcarded and Gameweek 3. Okay, that would explain no transfers, but that's still fairly impressive. The wildcard isn't doing too shabby for you, it looks like. Eddie says, I wait till tomorrow to wildcard. Yeah, the thing is, though, if you are convinced about wildcarding and you're not going to triple captain Haaland, I just pull the trigger now and maybe get a price rise or two in the process, because maybe someone like Simmons or Timber will be in your final wildcard squad and they're both expected to rise tonight. So by wildcarding today, you can bring both of them in and not have that headache. So just bear that in mind if you are convinced about the wildcard in 6. Danny says, was tempted to wildcard myself, but I'd probably just go Wirtz to King and Watkins to Haaland. Yeah, King isn't a great option. He will be your 8th attacker, essentially. If you had enough funds, I'd highly recommend Caicedo, but I'm guessing you can't do that. Yeah, Watkins to Haaland is worth it. Wildcarding in 8 looks really appealing to me. Yeah, Palmer was injured, as covered earlier, Dawn. Yasif says Gakpo to Foden, Ekitike to Pedro. Looks decent, overall. Now, one of Gakpo and Ekitike could still score against Palace, but it's a difficult game on paper. And as a duo, on the wildcard, I'd favour Joao Pedro and Foden. What to do with Ekitike? So in the last couple of weeks, I talked about holding him. Going into Gameweek 7, Gameweek 6 first, I would have some concerns about him starting against Palace, but that's an awkward one. If I'm wildcarding, I would sell him to Gyökeres and have Joao Pedro and Haaland. That's a really good front three long term. But yeah, no Joao Pedro. That could be an excuse to just pull the trigger. Joao Pedro against his former club, he'll probably return. At the moment, I'd lean towards buying Joao Pedro. Mohamed says Burnley have a strong defensive play. Yeah, but once again, it comes to styles, right? And Burnley lost 3-0 to Tottenham. I think Man City could score 3 or 4 past Burnley quite comfortably. And Erling Haaland could get 2 or 3 goals. So I'm still very bullish on Haaland triple captain. At worst, and maybe I'm jinxed it, but I think Haaland will score minimum against Burnley. So it's a safe bet for the captaincy. Yeah, Gameweek 16 will be best, potentially. I've covered a few different avenues. I wouldn't wildcard in 16, though. I think that is not something I'd recommend because you get 5 free transfers anyway. So in terms of the wildcard, no matter what you do, don't wildcard in 16. LFC fan says, what 2 should I start out of Van der Ven, Garner, Elliot Anderson? Van der Ven and Elliot Anderson. Bonjour says Captain Bruno. Nice. 25 in total. That's a carry job by Bruno. Fair play. I'm a bit scarred by not buying Bruno a few weeks ago. As I covered before, that was a 20-point swing. And that's when my season started going downhill, actually, not buying Bruno to replace the injured Palmer at the time. But yeah, 4 to go. Not a terrible position to be in, but yeah, I think those with 30-plus points will be happy this week. Sikan says Munoz to Michael Keane and Rodgers to Foden for free. No, not convinced about that. Foden looks good, but Michael Keane isn't safe long-term. Once Tarkowski, he is available already. Once Branthwaite is available, Michael Keane will drop to the bench as good as he has been for Everton. But yeah, for Game Week 6 specifically, I think Keane will start and any Everton defender like Tarkowski or Keane could score. So that's not a bad shout, but long-term that won't work in my opinion. Mina says 40 points, -3 from Sanchez. That's a good score, all things considered. With Watkins, Rodgers and Reinders to play. Yeah, no Haaland or Semenyo is a concern for you, but you've got the points on the board, decent players left. Hopefully it's a green arrow for you. Use them all before Game Week 16. Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's, with a bench boost and free hit, I'm quite open-minded. I'm more locked in with a triple captain and wildcard, which looks like 6 and 8 at the moment. Joseph says, thank you so much for the help. No worries, mate. Now I've got a plan. Ndoi, Salah and Larson, triple captain Haaland, Ndai and Caicedo. That looks really good, in my opinion. Both Ndai and Caicedo featured in my wildcard squad a few days ago. They'll probably feature again in my Gameweek 6 wildcard edition. And I'll also talk about Fernandes, Xavi Simons, Semenyo, and other midfielders too. Gameweek 7, Murillo to Gabriel. Gameweek 8 wildcard. I mean, look, in FPL you can plan all the way until Gameweek 38. You will get suspensions, injuries, but it looks like a very solid plan. Use a website like fpl.team or livefpl.net to visualize future game weeks, and that'll help you even further. I appreciate the kind words, and hopefully the transfers go well for you. So let's cover a few more questions because I will wrap up. It is quite late in the UK, and I'm going to have dinner. Late dinner. I'm used to that, so don't worry. I'm not starving myself for the content, even though maybe I've done that before. That team doesn't need a wild card. I think so, Native Faith. Terrible performance today. And, you know, it's not looking like a good week for me. I can't even speak right now. Let's go back in time. Yeah, it's not looking great for me in Gameweek 5. I'll probably get a red arrow. But taking the kind of emotion out of it, I think I could have a good week in 6 without wildcarding. And based on livefpl.net and fpl.team anyway, with their predicted points, they do favour the triple captaincy route and a -4 to get either Bruno Fernandes or Foden alongside Erling Haaland. Then it comes down to, do I sell Chris Wood or Watkins? And ultimately, if I sell Watkins, I can afford Bruno Fernandes, who I prefer long-term. But I do like the sort of triple city attack by getting Foden. So that's another possibility for me. So that will be this avenue that you see on screen. So the expected points is 66.7. With Bruno Fernandes is 71.2. And trust me, I don't base my decisions only off predicted points. It's just one avenue and one consideration amongst many. With the wild card is 54.5, which is significantly lower. And of course, it could be Caicedo for Gakpo in this team, and it does rise a little bit. But yeah, there are some benefits of wildcarding early. Triple City, maybe double. Also double Arsenal. And you can also fix other areas and holes in your squad. But yeah, I have to say, for my situation, I can't speak for everyone. I think a -4 hit and triple captain Haaland looks even better than the wild card. I got 46 points and 2 to go. Yeah, I think that's good. It also depends which 2 you've got left. If you somehow have Semenyo and Haaland, yeah, great position to be in. Second Air says, Dylan, I want to buy Raya and Caicedo, but I'm afraid their prices will go. I covered the price changes earlier. I don't think either will go up in price. Maybe you're scared about your players that you're looking to sell going down. But with goalkeeper transfers, as much as I like Raya, that's something I'd only recommend on a wild card. And remember, Sanchez is available for Gameweek 6. He will serve his suspension, which is a 1-game ban in the Carabao Cup midweek. PK says, if we have free transfers, yeah, I covered your question, mate. You can't do that. It doesn't matter how many transfers you got. Everyone, I mean absolutely everyone in FPL will get 5 transfers in Gameweek 16. That's why my advice is to use all your transfers going into Gameweek 16, and then you get even more transfers gained by the system. Yeah, it is good, it's Yanni. It certainly is. Think you may have talked me out of wildcard. Yeah, look, it's just my opinion. I'm speaking mainly from my perspective and my setup. It won't be the case for everyone. Some people will have a legitimate case for wildcarding now, and there are some pros of getting in on Arsenal and Man City early. But I don't think double or triple Arsenal looks great against Newcastle away. I have to say that. So triple captain on Haaland this week and stick with Borro, Williams and Anderson. I mean, on paper, you've got Borro facing Wolves at home, Williams facing Sunderland at home. Anderson isn't too shabby. You've got triple captain Haaland. I don't know the rest of your squad, but I think a wildcard in 8 could be quite underrated for a lot of people because they want to activate it now and get rid of Salah for Haaland, for example. What about bringing cheaper asset from United for Gameweek 8 like Mbeumo? I discussed this as well in my wildcard video the other day, and Mbeumo is my second favourite United attacker, but Fernandes is on penalties, he's also better for bonus points, and there isn't much to separate them, but obviously Bruno went clear today with that 10-pointer against Chelsea, so it would be Bruno if possible. If you need to, go to Mbeumo. There's also Phil Foden. Cody Gakpo still decent. You've got Ndai, Semenyo, and Caicedo, who I've talked about as well. JM says, thanks, Dylan. Yeah, I think I'll go with Foden and Haaland and keep Bruno for now and look to wildcard for the Arsenal swing. That looks very good on paper. Yeah. Django says 1 free transfer, Sanchez to Raya, Livramento to Gabriel, Timber, Senesi. Long term, I prefer Gabriel. Now, Senesi looks really good for DEFCON. And Livramento has been good so far this season, but the fixtures aren't great now. I have to stress this. I know Sanchez was a huge disappointment today. He's a waste man. We can say all this stuff. But he's available for Game Week 6. You don't need to sell him to Raya. So, out of these transfers, I prefer Livramento to Gabriel, actually. But then again, if there were to be a goalkeeper transfer this week, Sanchez to Raya isn't terrible. I just don't like making goalkeeper moves, besides the wildcard. After Wolves versus Leeds, should we consider Leeds assets now? Well, I've always talked about Goodmanson and Rodon as a 4 million backup option. Calvert-Lewin could be your 8th attacker maybe, but we've all been burnt by him in the past. He was a good FPL asset a few years ago with Everton, but he's obviously been through the dumps recently. Okafor is interesting. Obviously played for AC Milan and in the Champions League over the last couple of years, but yeah, it's really just Darlow in goal, especially if Perry's out long term, and then one of Goodmanson or Rodon. That's pretty much it for Leeds, in my opinion. I still think defensively they look decent, besides Game Week 2 against Arsenal, and this was their first game where they looked really good going forwards, but it was against maybe the worst team in the Prem in Wolves. El Hassan says, what, want to do Sanchez to Raya? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Sanchez out. I get it. Remember, he's available in Game Week 6. You don't need to. Who should I place Gakpo with? I don't think that's also necessary, but yeah, Caicedo, Semenyo's my favourite overall. You could also consider Xavi Simons or Kudus, and another one is Ndai, who I really like long term. Timber against Gabriel overall, I'd go for Gabriel if you can. Sanchez to Donnarumma or Raya or play Dubravka. Start Sanchez and hope that he plays. He's available. LFC fan says, cheers mate for answering my questions. Good luck for tomorrow and have a nice week. Thank you very much. The league name is FPL Dylan, but what's more important is the league code, and just use the FPL link in the description and you can auto join my FPL and FPL challenge leagues. The code is WFF0U7. You can literally see it on the left hand corner of your screen as well. If I go wildcard next week, what about Parma and Liverpool assets to do? I have Hugo, Gakpo and Salah. Yeah, Salah is still, he's not a must sell. I just prefer Haaland now. So if it's a question of him or Salah, I'm going to pick Haaland. Hugo Ekitike, long term is probably more of a sell than a hold. Gakpo, I'm not really convinced about his recent minutes, but I'd probably say he's a decent option on the wildcard still. And you could rotate him with other options as well. You mentioned Wood being a doubt. No, he's not injured, but Igor Jesus scored a brace against Swansea in midweek. He came close to scoring today, so I would have some slight concerns about that. I'm going to whiz through the other questions and call it a day because, yeah, I've been going live for a couple of hours already. Yeah, almost 2.5 hours on top of the 3-hour Mammoth deadline stream earlier as we celebrate 36k subscribers, so thank you very much. I'm planning to free hit to get Haaland in 6 and then figure out what I want to do about Salah after. I'm still not convinced to transfer Salah out before AFCON. Fair enough. That might be a different way of playing it, and it could actually turn out to be pretty decent. Salah played really well the other day against Atletico, but today was kind of more back to the typical Premier League performances. Very underwhelming. Gets an assist, but still not really worth the 14.5 million price tag. Jangus has played bench boost and got 9. Yeah, not terrible. 36 points is good. Yeah, hopefully, in your case anyway, you're hoping for Ranillo to get a clean sheet. So 6 points would turn that into 15. That's a good score for a bench boost in a single game week. Which team's player should I be targeting long term? Arsenal, Man City, if you're wildcarding in 8. I mean, there would be other teams to consider. I'll talk more about that as we get closer to Game Week 8, but those would be the two standouts for sure. Thank you, Mina. Appreciate you confirming that Sanchez will play in Game Week 6. Yeah, and also other viewers in the live chat were confirming it for me because I had doubts myself because I feared the worst. But yeah, as I said from the beginning, it's a one-game ban. It's the Carabao Cup. He's available against Brighton. Will he play? I mean, he could be easily punished by Maresca in football terms, of course. But yeah, I think Sanchez will start against Brighton as things stand. Yeah, Gary, I really hope so. If Watkins and Semenyo haul tomorrow, it could save an otherwise dismal game week for me. And I wouldn't have been that really fussed about it if it wasn't for Robert Sanchez. Jose says, last question for Game Week 6, Caicedo or Elliot Anderson? I think both of them will likely get 4 points. It's just a question of who's more likely to get DEFCON. I'm going to say Caicedo, so he's the answer for me. Django says, what about Gakpo to Rangers on a free transfer? I think Rangers is good on paper against Burnley, but I wouldn't make this move just yet. Just in case, see if Rangers plays tomorrow and also midweek in the Carabao Cup. If he starts against Arsenal and is benched against Huddersfield, my sort of prediction would be that he starts against Burnley as well, and that's what I currently feel. So that could be pretty decent, but Gakpo is still a good option. And let's not forget, for those that are selling Salah, and if you also get rid of Gakpo, you might have no Liverpool players. They're top of the league. I know they're bottom of the FDR, but Gakpo had a good start to the season, and in home matches in particular, he can be quite useful. I know today he was a big disappointment, but so was every Liverpool attacker. Bar Ekitiko, of course. James Hill says, should I activate my wildcard now to change Salah to Haaland, even before the Arsenal game where he might get injured to prevent price changes? So if you're convinced about wildcarding, you're not going to triple captain Haaland, then yeah, you might as well wildcard now. You can get the likes of Xavi Simons and Timber, who are supposed to go up in price tonight, according to livefpl.net. So go to that website, see who's going to go up in price, who's going to fall, and there you can gain a bit of team value that way. But I did explain before that you need a player to go up in price by 0.2 million whilst in your squad to gain 0.1 million in terms of selling value, which is very important when building your final wildcard squad. I don't think Haaland will get injured tomorrow, and I think people will be more convinced about him actually going into the Burnley game. But yeah, I think it's possible Erling Haaland will go up in price, maybe even to 14.4 as you suggest, but I'd be shocked if he didn't go up to 14.3 minimum. So because he's more expensive, maybe he needs even more transfer activity to go up in price compared to the kind of average Joe. But yeah, 14.4 is a serious possibility, and Salah could go down, actually. Thank you, Django. I appreciate it. Good night to you as well. Isak could start in Game Week 7. Let's keep an eye out for midweek and seeing how these teams line up in the Carabao Cup. But Ekitike scored today, did his job. Isak is still being bedded in. Let's not forget that. My current prediction is for Isak to start in midweek and for Ekitike to start against Palace, but things could certainly change. Yeah, Geordie, there are 2 weeks until, the Champions League deadline, the 30th of September, 10 days time, so expect content in over a week. A best limitless and wildcard squad in separate videos, a team selection, and then of course the deadline stream. But right now there's no need because a lot can change with injuries and stuff like that. Thoughts on Moltemada? I talked about him in my Transfers podcast a few days ago. I added him to the watch list. I don't think he's a purchase just yet, but he was benched in the Champions League, which is a bit concerning. And Gordon is back in Game Week 6 against Arsenal. So Moltemada could be benched because ultimately Newcastle have no, Willis is injured for a couple of weeks and they need Moltemada fit and available. They can't risk him at all. So he could be benched in one of the next 3 Premier League games. Bear that in mind. I would add him to the watch list and not buy just yet. Yeah, exactly that, Latino. I covered this already multiple times. Sanchez is available for Game Week 6. He's going to miss the Lincoln game in the Carabao Cup. It's a 1-game suspension. It's a professional last man foul, so he's going to be available in FPL. If I have 4 Chelsea players, can I wildcard without selling one first? Well, yeah, you can wildcard, but you would need to sell one of them, and I'm not sure why you'd want Palmer, Guiu, Pedro, and one of Sanchez or Cucurella anyway on a wildcard, to be quite honest with you. And Palmer, as much as I like him against Brighton, he might not start the game because he was subbed off with an injury. Or Gyökeres, yeah. Long term, I prefer Gyökeres at this moment in time. His minutes will also be managed, but he's going to start virtually every game in the Prem for Arsenal. Yeehaw! So happy, so I don't have to go for Raya just now. Yes, the only thing I'll say that might put a doubt in your mind is that Jorgensen might play really well in the Carabao Cup midweek, and ultimately Chelsea fans don't like Sanchez for the most part. We could see Jorgensen start in the Prem as well against Brighton, depending on the performance in midweek, but my current prediction is for Sanchez to start, despite the F-up today. Yeah, for Game Week 7 in isolation, it's close, and my current prediction is 1-0 Newcastle. I hope I'm wrong and that Arsenal get a win, but it is a bogey ground for them in recent seasons. I just think long-term, Gyökeres is better. Have you decided if you're wildcarding? Well, I haven't fully decided yet, but it's very likely that I won't wildcard in 6. I think I'll triple captain Erling Haaland, and you can see in the poll my current transfer plans, which will be discussed in my team selection video. Timber or Gabriel? If money is no issue, I'd go for Gabriel. Yeah, Evanussen is going under the radar. My problem with Evanussen is I would also like Semenyo and Senesi on a wildcard. Tripling up on Bournemouth seems a little bit steep. And you've also got Gyökeres, Joao Pedro and Haaland up front. That is my ideal front three on the wildcard. I bought in Walter for Game Week 7. That's fair enough. Let's not forget he is up against, well, you're saying for Game Week 7. Obviously, the next deadline is 6. That's obviously against Arsenal at home. Newcastle could win. And if Walter scores the winning goal, 9 points is possible, like he did against Wolves. But yeah, I think the best time to buy Walter is probably after the Arsenal game. Joao Pedro's tailing off a bit, and Chelsea look like they'll struggle without any decent attackers. I'd still include Joao Pedro on a wild card, but yeah, he didn't look effective at all today, and also against Bayern. But he's also been overplayed a little bit. He'll get a rest in the Carabao Cup midweek. That will help him. And against Brighton, I think Joao Pedro will return. Jose says, the big headache. Murillo price drop destroys my plan. 0.1 will need. Game Week 7 probably goes for Tarkowski or Timber, and then wildcard 8. I'd favour Timber. And to be honest, any Arsenal player, especially those defenders who will be targeted from set pieces, they could score against West Ham. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Dylan, for all your amazing videos and live streams. I've been watching your content for a year now and really appreciate it. That's a long time, and time does fly, but I appreciate you tuning in, all your great contributions to the channel with the messages and questions, and good luck for Game Week 5. We definitely need it. At least I do. Lulian T says, which two would you pick from Mateta, Joao Pedro, Walter-Milder, Richarlison for the next 3-4 weeks? It's still Joao Pedro for me. And it would be Richarlison short term, because you said 3-4 weeks. If it's longer term, I'm going to say Mateta. Gabriel, Caicedo or Timber, Reinders? Long term, I'm going to say Gabriel and Caicedo. The other duo is good, and it's a Dutch duo, which might look really good for Game Week 6 and 7. But I'm going to go for Gabriel and Caicedo longer term. Heisenberg says, yeah, I'm benching him in Game Week 6, planning to play 3-5-2. Yeah, he had a lot of transfer activity, to be fair. Going into Game Week 5, he was in the top 5 most transferred in, I believe. At least when I recorded my transfer tips video. So his ownership did rise quite significantly. The whole Chelsea team, was affected by the Sanchez sending off. Yeah, I forgot to say that. That is a good point, obviously, with Joao Pedro. But the fact he got an assist against Brentford and didn't play that well, the blank against Bayern and then against United, let's also not forget that Chelsea went down to 10 men. They did have a great opportunity, though, in the second half against 10 men Man United, with Casemiro being stupidly sent off. They didn't fully capitalise. It's still 3 points drop for Chelsea, in my opinion, and they should have gone away from that game with minimum a draw. Yeah, I think anyone aspiring for a title, for example, would have tried to get all 3 points there. And yeah, I think Chelsea will ultimately finish 4th in the Premier League this season. Akil says, hi Dylan, I'm planning to free hit in Game Week 6 and then having 2 transfers in Game Week 7 to do Salah, Watkins, Wood to Gakpo / Bruno, Haaland, Gyökeres. I would recommend Bruno over Gakpo. My only problem is that you might have no Liverpool players after making those transfers. And on the wildcard, you know, the kind of provisional one I built, and I'll be talking about this very soon, I've got only one Liverpool player in Gakpo. And ideally, I'd have Foden and Fernandes to complement in Dai, Semenyo and Caicedo. That is my ideal midfield. So that'll be talked about very soon. Thanks everyone. It has been a blast talking about a potential wildcard squad for Game Week 6, a triple captaincy on Erling Haaland. That's going to be a big debate, which will be talked about in more detail in my team selection. And there's a lot more to look forward to. The transfer tips for Game Week 6, highlighting 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. There's also going to be the best wildcard squad, of course, which is going to be very interesting and very popular, in my opinion. And over a week, or in over a week's time, there will be UCL Fantasy content with a best wildcard and Limiter squad for Matchday 2, a team selection. Check out my chip strategy guide for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. That will give you all the details you need. And if you rewind this stream, you can see my update graphics for the chip strategy guide. There's a lot of content headed your way throughout the season with deadline and reaction streams for FPL. And for the Champions League, I go live all the time. It's been over 5 years. I was the first one to go live for UCL Fantasy in terms of deadline streams and also to do regular wildcard and limitless videos. The same goes for FPL as well. So check out all the content, all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships. A big up to all the members as well, and also to Ahmed for the gifted memberships today. It's massively appreciated. The same goes to Paredes as well. There is also my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky for the updates on UCL Fantasy and FPL. I'm going to have a break after this and also watch the Fulham-Brentford game. That's the only match I haven't seen anything of really, and that definitely needs to be assessed in more detail. It was a shame I couldn't get it on during the stream. Don't you think João Pedro is way overrated? Well, he had a very good start to the season from a returns perspective. He only blanked against Crystal Palace in Gameweek 1, and ultimately he blanked today. I think he's going to be more consistent than most, and Chelsea will still be fairly fixture-proof. João Pedro can still operate in a deeper position. Ultimately, they don't have the lap, which is a big miss for Chelsea now, especially if Cole Palmer also misses out. And if Enzo Fernandez and Palmer aren't on the pitch, João Pedro will be on penalties, but I honestly thought he would have been second in command when it comes to pens. It doesn't look like that'll be the case at the moment. Yes, BFG. And if you rewind this stream or check out my key changes to FPL video and the chip strategy guide, yeah, that's all covered there. We get 2 bench boosts, 2 wildcards, 3 hits, and triple captains, 1 for each half of the season. I also talk about the best time to use every single one of those boosters. I think Gameweek 6 triple captain looks great. Gameweek 8 wildcard, for example, and a bench boost around Gameweek 14 could also be brilliant. Ivan says Salah to Bruno. I would only sell Salah to Bruno if you're using those funds to buy Erling Haaland. Otherwise, keep Salah for now. Salah to Saka. Let's see tomorrow if Saka's even in the squad. I think he could be, but that doesn't mean he's going to start. I think Saka should be eased into things and not rush back. I know he's a massive boost for Arsenal. He's much better than Madueke, but I think Noni's done a decent job in his absence. Yeah, I think ultimately keep Salah for now, unless you're buying Erling Haaland with the extra funds. Akil says, yeah, that's my problem since I'm keeping in Dai, Kudus and Semenyo. Yeah, 3 good midfielders to be fair. The others to look out for are Caicedo, Fernandes, maybe Xavi Simons, and maybe Gakpo if you want that Liverpool coverage. PK says for a Gameweek 8 wildcard, Saka with Foden looks solid. Yeah, if Saka's back by then, and I think he will be, that looks really enticing. And that could be another advantage of saving the wildcard until then, instead of doing it now and buying one of Fernandes or Foden, maybe even both. Arsenal's goals are split with Gyökeres on off days and all 4 to the midfield on good ones. Yeah, apart from Gyökeres, who should eat up the big chances, especially at home, I don't trust Eze, Madueke and Odegaard and all these different players to get points consistently. Martinelli and Trossard off the bench can cause damage, but yeah, I think apart from Saka and Gyökeres, everyone else in the Arsenal attack won't give you consistent returns at this moment in time. Ivan says, yeah, buying Haaland to go Watkins to him. That makes sense. In that case, I'd go to Bruno Fernandes as things stand. And you can see my poll. And if you rewind the stream, you can also see my different avenues. I'm also considering Foden in order to fund Erling Haaland up front and then triple captain him as well. Thank you, DG, and everyone else watching. As he says, always a pleasure. Good night. Yes, and all the best of luck for the rest of Gameweek 5. We certainly need it after the calamity in many scenarios. I'll see you very soon for the Gameweek 6 deadline stream. That'll be next week. Keep your eyes peeled for more UCL Fantasy and FPL content. Until then, let's get a green arrow, hopefully. But it's asking for a lot, I think, in FPL. Goodbye.